Chapter 546. Wang Sheng had always known that Song Yin was not the meek and submissive person she used to be. In the past, Song Yin had been suppressed and bullied by the Song family's elders. Apart from Song Laoyu, there was no one else she could trust. Her cultivation was not high, and her cultivation resources were forcefully taken. Even if Song Yin wanted to resist, there was nothing she could do. Since she could not resist, she could only resign herself to fate and suffer. However, Wang Sheng knew that Song Yin had always been a woman with her own ideas. When Song Honda returned and Song Yin held power, Song Yan's true personality was slowly revealed. Wang Sheng liked Song Yan's personality. She was a woman who would take the initiative to fight for herself. It was clear that Song Yin was taking great strides forward on this path. Wang Sheng even believed that if Song Yin went back and told Wang Sheng's words to Song Honda, he would give up on conquering the world and leave the center of power. Very soon, Song Yin would take control of the Song Kingdom and become the queen of the Song Kingdom. Song Yin had said that she might become the person that Wang Sheng did not want to become. Perhaps it was because of this. Song Yin had already gathered the experts that Song Honda had painstakingly nurtured. What would happen when she truly became the Duke of Song, the Wu Zetian of the origin spirit world? When one held power, one's thoughts were truly out of one's control. Just like the emperor, even though he knew that Wang Sheng was not a threat, he could not help but want to kill Wang Sheng when they first met. Perhaps Song Yin knew that this path was difficult, so she gave herself to Wang Sheng before she became someone that Wang Sheng hated. That's right. Can I reopen the Song family's camp when I return? Song Yin was reluctant to leave Wang Sheng's embrace, but her mind was already on other matters in the Song Kingdom. If the Duke of Song recovers obediently, you can reopen it, Wang Sheng said without hesitation. Wang Sheng said without hesitation. Since Song Yin wanted to take this path, Wang Sheng had no reason or right to stop her. Otherwise, you can continue to lock her up. With this reason, it was impossible for Song Honda to quit even if he didn't want to. For the sake of the Song clan, Song Honda was willing to live on and watch the Song clan become the most powerful vassal state under Song Yan's leadership. Song Yan didn't say another word. She simply hugged Wang Sheng tightly, as if she really couldn't bear to let go, or perhaps she was waiting for Wang Sheng to ask her to stay. Wang Sheng knew that as soon as he opened his mouth, Song Yin might disregard everything and follow him. However, when he thought of the eyes of the girl in his dreams, Wang Sheng couldn't say a single word. Song Yin was finally about to leave. Under the watchful gazes of over 30 experts, she reluctantly let go of Wang Sheng. The hidden bitterness in her eyes seemed to be able to circle Wang Sheng a few times. Wang Sheng stood at the entrance of the bridal chamber, watching Song Yin leave. His heart was filled with bitterness. Suddenly, Wang Sheng noticed that Song Yin, who had already walked a few dozen meters away, had turned back. He couldn't help but be stunned, but he was delighted. Song Yin returned to Wang Sheng's side. When she saw the happy expression on Wang Sheng's face, she couldn't contain her joy. I just remembered something and forgot to tell you. However, she didn't give up on her decision. She only came back to tell Wang Sheng one thing. When Wang Sheng was of the Shi clan, there had been a theft. Several men in black had taken advantage of the conflict between Wang Sheng and the Shi clan to steal a precious 4 symbols exquisite seal box. Inside the seal box was half a peerless treasure map. Even now, the Shi clan still hadn't discovered the identity of the men in black. They were all men of sacrifice, and they didn't leave any traces behind. Even if the Shi clan dissected the bodies of the men in black, they wouldn't be able to find any clues. However, a few months ago, the Gan clan had bought a scroll that recorded some kind of cultivation technique at an auction and accidentally discovered half a map. According to the Song clan's informant in the Gan clan, it was also half a peerless treasure map. Now, the Gan clan was searching everywhere with great fanfare and was offering a high reward for the other half. When Shi Guohou heard the news, he was so angry that he smashed many tools. He had a great opportunity to cooperate with the Gan clan to search for the peerless treasure, but it was all for naught. Those black-robed men are definitely from the Gan clan, Wang Sheng said without hesitation upon hearing this news. There weren't many powers that could train men of sacrifice, and those that could hide for several years for a mission couldn't be a small power. Only the Gan clan, which wasn't one of the 5 great clans, had such strength. Actually, everyone knows about it now. It's just that no one said anything. Song Yin smiled. The Gan clan was trying to cover up, and they knew that the other half of the Peerless Treasure Map had been destroyed. They were purposely using it to disgust the Shi clan. Perhaps they had other intentions, but she didn't know. Why are you telling me all this? What are you planning to do? Wang Sheng asked, puzzled. You were there when the other half of the Peerless Treasure Map was destroyed. Song Yin suddenly smiled sweetly. You must know a lot, and have even seen the other half of the map, right? The 4 aspects exquisite box isn't that easy to open. Wang Sheng smiled faintly, neither admitting nor denying it. Back then, I obtained the 2 aspects exquisite box in Carefree City, and I even had the help of the Ling Long Pavilion. You're my man. Song Yin didn't argue, only smiling. I have a feeling that you can definitely open the 4 aspects exquisite box. You must have seen the other half of the map, right? Wang Sheng looked at Song Yin, and Song Yin also looked at Wang Sheng expectantly. After a while, Wang Sheng finally nodded. That's right, I've seen it. He also indirectly admitted that he could open the 4 aspects exquisite box. My man is definitely a man of indomitable spirit. Song Yin was overjoyed, rushing up to Wang Sheng and kissing him. When I get out, I'll send this news to the Gan clan. Song Yin happily skipped back, saying as she walked, when the Gan clan comes looking for you, you must make an offer. Don't let them get away with it. What if the Shi clan comes looking for me? Wang Sheng smiled and suddenly shouted at the leaving Song Yin. Then you can make a second fortune. Song Yin's voice floated over, full of joy. Whether it was Song Yin or Wang Sheng, they didn't seem to consider the possibility of the Gan clan or the Shi clan coming to rob or force Wang Sheng to death. Wang Sheng was no longer the Wang Sheng of the past. No matter how bad he was still the most senior elder of the Elder Supreme Lord Temple. Unless they decided to become enemies with the Elder Supreme Lord Temple, the 2 clans could only obediently cooperate and let Wang Sheng extort them. Chapter 547. This time, Song Yin had really left. It was like a dream. If it wasn't for the bridal chamber behind Wang Sheng would have suspected that he was dreaming. Returning to the small room, Wang Sheng looked at the remains on the bed and put away the bedsheet. Song Yin's virgin blood was still on it. Sitting at the table outside, Wang Sheng took out his personal combat terminal and brought up the Shi family's half of the Peerless Treasure Map, studying it carefully. When Wang Sheng had obtained the map of Bao Qing Yutang's ruins, he had discovered that the material used to make the map was the same as the Peerless Treasure Map. When he had obtained part of the formation map from Mei the material used to make the map was the same as the Peerless Treasure Map. Could it be that the Peerless Treasure Map was related to the Ground of Thousand Extremes? Bringing up the image, Wang Sheng combined it with the memories in his mind and slowly analyzed the meaning of the circles and dots. He had never thought about the Ground of Thousand Extremes before. When he had just obtained the hidden formation map, he had no intention of entering the Ground of Thousand Extremes. Now that he connected these things to the Land of 1,000 Extremities, coupled with the part of the formation map that Mei had given him, Wang Sheng suddenly realized that perhaps this so-called Peerless Treasure Map was a map of the core of the Land of 1,000 Extremities. Unfortunately, the Shi family's half of the map only had some markings that looked like the distribution of formations, but not the location of the treasure. Perhaps he would have to wait until it was combined with the Gan family's map to determine the true location. Looking at it now, he was only making preparations in advance to make a better impression. He would probably have to wait until the Gan family and Shi family made their offer. Standing up, Wang Sheng took one last look at Song Yin and his bridal chamber, then walked out of the room and used the wholeness formula and formation formula to summon the insects. Countless insects swarmed in and gnawed on everything in the bridal chamber, leaving only the stone frame. It was dangerous to use fire in the forest. Using this method to completely destroy all traces was sometimes more thorough than fire. Wang Sheng left the small room without looking back and slowly walked towards the courtyard of the Laojun Monastery. It's fine now. When they returned to the courtyard, no one felt that anything was amiss. When the old Taoist priest looked over, Wang Sheng said calmly, "Let's go." In the ground of thousand extremes, Wang Sheng had absolute authority. In addition, Wang Sheng had the highest seniority among all the people in the camp. If Wang Sheng said it was fine, then it must be fine. Wang Sheng had been out for a while. He had fought 3 battles with Song Yin in a short period of time. Thus, he was somewhat exhausted. After returning to the courtyard, he found a room to sleep and rested for his energy for half a day. He started his daily routine. As soon as he started cultivating, Wang Sheng noticed that something was amiss. The cultivation technique that Wang Sheng was currently cultivating was a brand new cultivation technique that the combat awareness minion had carefully designed based on the number of acupuncture points Wang Sheng had and the many cultivation techniques he had obtained previously. However, the cultivation method Wang Sheng was practicing was a brand new cultivation method designed by the combat consciousness minion based on the number of acupuncture points Wang Sheng had. However, when he practiced today, it seemed that the rotation speed of the yin-yang whirlpool in all the acupuncture points was more than twice as fast as before. Just this alone was enough to increase Wang Sheng's overall rate of absorbing spiritual energy by at least 2 times. Not to mention, the overall route of the cultivation seemed to be a lot smoother in a short period of time. The spiritual energy that was usually like a torrent had a sense of turbulence at this moment. The turbulence of the spiritual energy had also triggered a drastic change in the soul space. The virtual giant cauldron had solidified by almost a third under the turbulence of spiritual energy without any alchemy process. All the changes in the soul space that he had experienced before seemed to be strengthened at this moment. The strengthening brought about by the changes in the soul space was also strengthened. His vision, taste, strength, calligraphy, and the 9 words of Buddhist incantation had all gone up a level overnight. This was a change that Wang Sheng could not have imagined. How could this be? Wang Sheng suppressed his surprise. After he finished practicing patiently, he carefully checked his body. Apart from the strengthening in all aspects, there was no problem. Wang Sheng pondered for a long time, but still did not know the problem. He vaguely felt that it should be related to Song Yan's intercourse, but he could not confirm it. After thinking about it, Wang Sheng decided to ask the alchemy grand disciple with the highest cultivation. The white-haired and white-bearded old Taoist carefully examined the changes in Wang Sheng's complexion. He pinched Wang Sheng's wrist and did not let go for half an hour. The old Taoist carefully asked about the coating of his tongue, his breath, and the various sensations in his body. In the end, the old Taoist finally came to a conclusion. Yin and yang harmony. Congratulations, elder. The old Taoist had a mysterious smile on his face. He did not ask where Wang Sheng had gone or what he had done during the day. He only congratulated him. His elder had gone from a virgin to a man. He did not seem the least bit curious. Good thing? Bad thing? Wang Sheng's skin was thick enough that he did not even blush. He only asked with a smile. Good thing. Very good thing. The old Taoist quickly replied. If you cultivate normally, you would at least reach the 7th stage if you want to achieve this yin and yang harmony. This is almost equivalent to being reborn. It is impossible for an ordinary person to have this kind of opportunity. With this experience, your future cultivation speed will be at least 50% faster than before. Wang Sheng thought about the feeling he had when he cultivated and sighed in his heart. How was it 50%? It was clearly double or even more. I'm afraid the elder's wife must have put in a lot of effort. The old Taoist did not wait for Wang Sheng to say anything and continued. Her cultivation level should be much higher than yours. She was willing to give up a part of her cultivation to become yours. This is a cultivation method of a big family. She must have taken a lot of precious supplements and cultivated a special cultivation method. After that, her cultivation level will drop by at least 1 stage. Then, will she be in trouble? Wang Sheng asked anxiously. This depends on whether the elder is willing to give her supplements. The old Taoist didn't care who the elder's woman was. He only told Wang Shung the solution. If you're willing to use all kinds of rare tonics, you'll be able to recover in half a year at most. And it is not without benefits after she recovers. Because her cultivation level has dropped by one stage, she will be more adept at controlling spiritual energy after cultivating again. Her foundation will be more solid, and it will be more beneficial for her future cultivation. The old Taoist glanced at Wang Sheng and said the problem. The only trouble is that it will cost a lot of money. I'm afraid you will have to search the world for enough supplements. Hearing this, Wang Sheng finally let out a long sigh and relaxed. Chapter 548. He dare not speak about other things in Duke Song's house, but he definitely had an inexhaustible supply of tonics. Moreover, even if ordinary tonics were not enough, there was still the life-returning pill. There were still 2 life-returning pills. Duke Song could use 1.5 for himself, while Song Yin could use the other half. The method of using it was exactly the same as Duke Song's, to dissolve it in water and drink it slowly. After a period of time, Song Yin would be able to recover. However, the beauty's intentions made it difficult for Wang Sheng to calm down. He had already found it hard to forget Song Yin, and this time, there were even more threads of love that the intellectual sword could not sever. The old Taoist priest with the Taoist, named Qing Chun, seemed to have done a lot of research on this. He explained the ins and outs of this cultivation technique. There were many restrictions on this cultivation method. Firstly, the woman had to be a virgin, and her cultivation had to be at least at the peak of the 6th degree realm. Most importantly, the woman had to be willing. In terms of effect, the younger the woman, the better, and the higher the cultivation, the better. Other than the 8 vassal states, or the royal family in the capital, no one else would be able to nurture such a cauldron. If a young woman could easily reach the peak of the 6th degree realm, she would be a genius in the family and needed the support of the family. How could they sacrifice her so easily? Unless it was a clan leader or a grand elder. How could ordinary people have such an extravagant cultivation method? In addition, although this method was effective, there was a time limit. Using this method to increase one's cultivation speed would at most last for half a year. After this time, it would slowly weaken and eventually return to its original speed. On one hand, Wang Sheng was grateful to Song Yin, but on the other hand, he was furious with Song Honda. If Song Yin had nothing better to do, why would she cultivate such a cultivation method? Could it be that Song Honda forced her to cultivate for her so-called husband? Song Yin had something on her mind when they met. If it was really Song Honda's idea, Wang Sheng swore that even if Song Yin was unhappy, he would kill Song Honda with one shot. Since he knew this was a good thing, and it was Song Yin's good intentions, Wang Sheng had to cherish this hard-earned gift and not let Song Yin down. After thanking old Taoist Qing Chun, Wang Sheng practiced Tai Chi fist in the courtyard again. After this round of punching, Wang Sheng finally understood how big of a gift Song Yin had given him. The Tai Chi fist was a fist skill that combined yin and yang. After Wang Sheng and Song Yan's fight, the yin and yang had intertwined, and the dragon and tiger had complemented each other. Even the rotation speed of the Tai Chi yin-yang vortexes in their acupoints had doubled. When they practiced the Tai Chi fist, it was really smooth and smooth. Solitary yin did not grow, and solitary yang did not give birth. In the past, Wang Sheng was a solitary yang. Although he had already comprehended the fist techniques in his heart, his cultivation realm was still insufficient. He had yet to reach the stage where extreme yang gave birth to yin, and extreme yin gave birth to yang. As a result, whether it was in terms of power or effect, the fist techniques he executed were far inferior to old Taoist Ling Su's. Now, Wang Sheng's punching skills had finally reached the level of natural yin and yang, complementing each other like old Taoist Ling Su. This caused the eyes of the Taoist priests to shine brightly. They had all learned the Tai Chi fist and the 9 syllables mantra before they set off. With one look, they could tell that Elder Wang Sheng was very powerful. Some of them even impatiently followed Wang Sheng's movements. Following this secular family elder, there would indeed be some surprises from time to time. To be able to cultivate so close to the core of the land of 1,000 extremities and feel the aura within it was already a blessing. Who would have thought that he would be able to improve his punching skills? In the following days, Wang Sheng cultivated diligently almost every day. Apart from cultivating, he also worked hard to observe the Taoist priests concocting pills. Now that he had changed to concocting more complicated pills, the time required to concoct each pill was longer, causing the solidification speed of the giant cauldron in Wang Sheng's origin soul space to slow down. However, Wang Sheng had just received a big gift from Song Yin. Previously, the cauldron had solidified by a third. In just a few days after observing more than 10 types of pill concocting processes, the giant cauldron had reached about 70% solidification. Then, Wang Sheng welcomed the second strengthening of his sense of smell. Wang Sheng's cultivation speed was so fast that it shocked the Taoist priests in the old Supreme Lord Temple. Among them, the only one who knew the details was the old Taoist Qin, who was the best at concocting pills. The old Taoist who reminded Wang Sheng only had a slight guess, but did not know the specific reason. From this point of view, the old Taoist had indeed kept his mouth shut and did a good job. After his sense of smell was strengthened for the second time, Wang Sheng began the painful process of adapting to it. Just like in the past, when his sense of taste had just been strengthened, he could not eat any food that was not to his liking. But his sense of smell was different. Even if it was unbearable, it was impossible for him not to breathe. The grounds of 1,000 extremities was not some fresh and fragrant place. It was filled with jungles, withered branches, and cypress trees. The stench of rotting animals and plants was unbearable even to the average person, let alone Wang Sheng's current state. Every day, Wang Sheng felt like he was living in a house with a skunk. There were all kinds of rotten smells and the pungent smell of sulfur. The entire 1,000 despair was like an extra large odor bomb, bombarding Wang Sheng until his head swelled. Fortunately, the sense of smell was adaptive. After smelling the same smell for a long time, the brain would slowly ignore these smells. But because of the strengthening of his sense of smell, Wang Sheng's adaptation period was at least 4 to 5 times longer than a normal person's. He would have to adapt to a different place, and at the beginning, it was worse than death. Finally, after about a month, Wang Sheng adapted to his new sense of smell. And in this month, Wang Sheng did not slack off at all. He observed the refining of the pills and smelled the fragrance of the pills. The giant cauldron became a lot more solid. After a month, all the Taoist priests who were good at concocting elixirs had basically gone through all the elixirs they were good at. The remaining elixirs were basically of extremely high difficulty and had a very low success rate. Not only was it time-consuming and laborious, but also required a lot of precious medicinal ingredients. Like this, Wang Sheng's process of raising his spirit was forced to stop. How could this be? At this point, it was impossible for Wang Sheng to give up halfway. In the future, it would be very unlikely for him to find another chance like this. Thinking that the Taoist priests of the old Supreme Lord Temple were not outsiders, he simply clenched his teeth and made a decision. He called the old Taoist Qin, whom Wang Sheng trusted, to his secret corner. Wang Sheng immediately took out the pill formulas that were carefully preserved by the alchemy sects from 500 years ago and let the old Taoist examine them. The old Taoist Qin, who did not think much of it, did not know what Wang Sheng had taken out at first. But after looking at more than 10 pill formulas, he immediately became excited. This is the pill formula of the 100 Medicine sect. The old Taoist Qin looked at Wang Sheng and shouted, "Elder, this is the pill formula of the 100 Medicine sect." Chapter 549. The underground palace they were in was actually the ruins of the 100 Medicine sect from 500 years ago. The 100 Medicine sect had been a famous alchemy sect for a period of time. Their most famous elixir was the Life Rejuvenation Pill. It was no secret that the Song clan's experts had stolen the Life Rejuvenation Pill. When Wang Sheng had brought Mei and the others back to the Imperial Treasury's camp, the news had already spread. Everyone already knew that Bao Qing Yutang had planned to explore the ruins of the Hundred Medicine sect. However, the Song clan had taken advantage of them, and Bao Qing Yutang's group had been completely annihilated. It was impossible to steal the life rejuvenation pill from the hands of High Duke Song. So many people had set their sights on the Hundred Medicine sect's elixir formula. However, whether it was Mei and the others who had come from the ruins of the Hundred Medicine sect or the Song Kingdom's guards, none of them had revealed the elixir formula. Everyone could only guess that no one had obtained the elixir formula. When old Taoist Qing Shun had arrived, he had ordered the Taoist priests to search carefully, but they had not found it. Unexpectedly, the elixir formula they had been searching for was actually in Wang Sheng's possession. This was the Hundred Medicine sect's treasured elixir formula. Old Taoist Qing Shun was so happy that he almost exploded. He almost lost his composure. If he could see the light of so many elixirs in his hands, wouldn't it be a great fortune for the world? There's no need to pay too much attention to it. Wang Sheng was very open-minded about old Taoist Qing Shun's joy. He said, "You should know that 500 years have passed. The elixir formulas that the Hundred Medicine sect had treated like treasures in the past are probably nothing more than ordinary items now. Calm down. You can treat it as an antique appreciation or an academic study. Don't lose your cool." Old Taoist Qing Shun stood rooted to the ground after he finished speaking. Wang Sheng's words were the true portrayal of the Taoist sect's way of letting nature take its course. The old Taoist Qing Shun felt enlightened, and he immediately calmed down. "Thank you for your guidance, Elder." When old Taoist Qing Shun woke up from his stupor, the first thing he did was to thank Wang Sheng respectfully. Wang Sheng fully deserved this gift. Old Taoist Qing Shun's behavior just now was a sign of an imbalance in his mentality. This was not in line with the Tao sect's natural state of mind that had always been advocated. Wang Sheng's words had calmed the old Taoist down. At the same time, it had greatly improved his state of mind. Of course, the old Taoist had to be grateful. After bowing to Wang Sheng, old Taoist Qing Shun did not pick up the pill formula that Wang Sheng had taken out. Instead, he walked out of the alchemy room. Wang Sheng didn't understand and followed him out. Unexpectedly, the old Taoist didn't stop. Instead, he walked along the passageway and out. Wang Sheng looked at the few young Taoist priests outside. The few Taoist priests were also confused. They didn't know what their martial granduncle was trying to do. Everyone was confused and didn't say a word. Together with Wang Sheng, they followed old Taoist Qing Shun out of the passageway and back to the courtyard above ground. Old Taoist Qing Shun sat down cross-legged in an empty space in the middle of the courtyard without saying a word. Before the people around him could react, the surrounding spirit energy surged violently towards the old Taoist. Upon seeing this, everyone understood that the old Taoist Qing Shun had actually made a breakthrough. This was great news. The group of Taoist priests and Wang Sheng quickly surrounded the old Taoist to protect him. They watched the ceremony while protecting him. Everyone's hearts were filled with joy. The land of thousand devastations was indeed the land of thousand devastations. They had only been here for a few months, and someone had already broken through. Moreover, it was one of the few with the highest cultivation levels among them. It was truly a treasured place for cultivation. When Wang Sheng saw old Taoist Qing Shun break through, he was delighted. At the same time, he felt a little envious. With the cultivation methods of Taoism, as long as one's state of mind could catch up, one's cultivation level would be different every day. It was truly a good method for cultivation. It was a pity that there were very few people like the old Taoist who could go with the flow of nature and not be taken advantage of by external forces. This time, the old Taoist Qing Shun tempered his body with spirit energy. It lasted for more than 2 days. In the end, the aura on the old Taoist Qing Chen's body suddenly erupted. A wave of aura shot up to the sky, frightening all the demonic beasts within a radius of God knows how many miles away. As if responding to old Taoist Qing Chen's aura, an extremely powerful aura suddenly erupted from the core of the lands of despair the moment old Taoist Qing Chen's aura descended. Although it only happened for an instant, it still shook everything within 50 kilometers. The campsite of the Imperial Treasury in the Land of Thousand Devastations and the underground palace ruins of the 100 Medicine Sect were both close to the edge of the Land of Thousand Devastations. When the aura erupted, everyone inside was immediately alarmed. Regardless of whether they were cultivating or resting, they all jumped up, thinking that some expert had attacked. "What is your cultivation level now?" Wang Sheng was also stunned. He looked at the astonished old Taoist Qing Chun who had just woken up and asked the old Taoist Qing Chun with a face full of shock. "I dare not hide it from you, elder. Thanks to you, I should be at the peak of the 9th degree realm now." The old Taoist Qing Chun replied quickly when he heard Wang Sheng's question. "Damn!" Wang Sheng cursed in his heart and blurted out. "Did you feel that aura just now?" The old Taoist Qing Chun nodded. That aura just now was definitely the aura of an expert that he had never seen in his life. Apart from ancestor Ling Su, he had never heard of such an expert in the world. According to Wang Sheng's plan, he would continue to stay here for a period of time. After Qing Chun, old Taoist Qing Chun had made a breakthrough, he would refine these pill formulas and try to study them. Then he would slowly think of a way to make a breakthrough in the Land of Thousand Devastations. However, a sudden incident caused Wang Sheng to have no choice but to disrupt his plans. But when that aura exploded, Wang Sheng knew that he had to make a trip to the core of the Land of Thousand Devastations. In that aura, there was a throbbing that he was familiar with. It was something he had felt in his dreams. "What level is that expert at?" Wang Sheng asked. On this point, Qing Chun, old Taoist Qing Chun, should be clearer. His cultivation level was the highest, and he was the one who had triggered the explosion of that aura. The old Taoist Qing Chun shook his head, as if he didn't dare to confirm it. After pondering for a while, he said uncertainly, "He's a little weaker than the current ancestor Ling Su, but higher than me. I want to go in and take a look." Wang Sheng couldn't sit still. An expert stronger than a 9th degree realm expert had appeared in the core of the Land of Thousand Devastations. What kind of situation was this? Not to mention that the aura was familiar to him. Even if it wasn't, Wang Sheng had to go in and take a look. "I will accompany you in, elder." The old Taoist Qing Chun had just made a breakthrough and was full of confidence. He said without hesitation, "You stay. If there's such an expert, this place isn't safe enough." Wang Sheng shook his head and rejected Qing Chun, old Taoist Qing Chun's suggestion. He had enough reasons to go in alone. "It's more convenient for me to go in alone. At the very least, I can escape." Chapter 550. No one doubted Wang Sheng's abilities in the Ground of Thousand Despair. But it was different this time. They were going into the core of the Ground of Thousand Despair. Wang Sheng had warned them repeatedly that no one was allowed to enter the core area when he was leading the team. Even though Wang Sheng had said so, everyone was still worried. Wang Sheng could only use his trump card and use his seniority to pressure them. "If I am alone, I still have a chance of escaping. However, if I were to bring someone in, I would have to take care of them. If I were to bring someone in, I would probably end up dying in there." Wang Sheng was not afraid of others knowing that there was something he could not do. He was simply stating the facts. "But without anyone to take care of you, elder, you'll be in danger." The old Taoist priest, Qing Chun, was extremely worried. Before they came, both old ancestor Ling Su and the first monastery master had warned them not to let anything happen to Wang Sheng. How could the old Taoist be at ease in such a situation? "This is the first time we're going in. How can we succeed without losing hundreds of experts?" Wang Sheng smiled slyly at old Taoist Qing Chun. "So, I've decided to find a group of experts who are willing to enter the core area. The kind that I don't need to take care of and can help me attract the attention of the experts inside." Although old Taoist Qing Chun had been immersed in refining elixirs, he was not ignorant. He immediately understood Wang Sheng's plan after considering the situation in the Ground of Thousand Despair. The Imperial Treasury had a camp in the Ground of Thousand Despair. There were many experts cultivating in that camp. As long as Wang Sheng went there, he believed that some of them would be willing to follow Wang Sheng into the core area of the Ground of Thousand Despair. The people from the big families might not be on the same side as Wang Sheng. So, Wang Sheng did not care about their lives. As long as they could help Wang Sheng attract the attention of some experts in demonic beasts, it might be enough for Wang Sheng to investigate. From Wang Sheng's plan, old Taoist Qin Shen could tell that Wang Sheng really treated the Laojun Temple as one of his own. Of course, they couldn't put their own people in danger. As for those who weren't on their side, they could do whatever they wanted. After confirming this point, the old Taoist didn't say anything else. Since Wang Sheng had his own ideas and was diligently protecting the Laojun Temple, that was enough. Wang Sheng left the ruins of the 100 Medicines sect alone and went straight to the imperial treasury along the edge of the land of Thousand Despair. It took Wang Sheng less than 5 days to cover a distance of several hundred kilometers. In the entire imperial treasure house, among the few people who enjoyed special privileges, Wang Sheng was one of them, and he enjoyed the highest level of privileges. Whenever he went, he would have his own room. Whenever he needed something, he could order him at any time. He didn't have to pay any price. Did you feel the aura of the master at the core of the land of Thousand Despair? After entering the camp, Wang Sheng found the camp's supervisor and got straight to the point without any hesitation. The supervisor in charge of the camp was, of course, also a little master. Otherwise, how could he control such a big place? Hearing Wang Sheng's question, he nodded without hesitation. Does anyone know what's going on? Wang Sheng asked again. However, this sentence was just a slight cover-up for the reason why he rushed over, and he didn't expect anyone to know. Several masters said that the aura that leaked inside was a peerless master. The supervisor did not hide anything from Wang Sheng. He quickly replied, 2 of these experts are in the legendary realm. Based on their aura, they determined that the other expert could only be stronger than them. It's impossible for him to be weaker. Listening to the supervisor's words, Wang Sheng nodded and silently pondered for a while without saying anything. The supervisor didn't urge him and waited quietly. Finally, the supervisor saw Wang Sheng gritting his teeth and seemed to have made a decision. Help me prepare 2 months' worth of food, water, and various elixirs for each person. Wang Sheng ordered. He seemed to be a little hesitant and finally made a decision. I'll go in and have a look. The supervisor was shocked. Preparing food and water was a small matter. Wang Sheng had a 50% share in this camp. Not to mention food and water, it didn't matter if he took more supplies. However, Wang Sheng decided to go in and have a look. This was a big matter, and he had to stop him. Of course, stopping him was a pretense. His real purpose was to slightly delay Wang Sheng's departure time, so that he could report the news and wait for the boss to make a decision. As soon as the supervisor stopped him, Wang Sheng didn't ignore him. He just asked, such a master is so close to the camp. Can you sleep without knowing whether he is a friend or a foe? Of course he couldn't sleep. The supervisor hadn't been able to sleep well for the past few days. As the saying goes, one can let others sleep soundly by the side of the bed. That master's aura could be detected by everyone. This was almost the level of warning at the entrance of the camp. As the boss, Wang Sheng had to take the initiative to investigate the identity of the other party. No matter what, he couldn't say anything wrong. As for stopping him, other than using safety as an excuse, there was no other reason. However, the camp supervisor still managed to get Wang Sheng to stay for 2 more days. During these 2 days, not only did he have to prepare sufficient supplies for Wang Sheng, but he also had to inform his boss. Before the news from LV Wenho arrived, the camp was already in an uproar. Everyone was already shocked by the master's aura that day, and Wang Sheng appeared here at the right time. Moreover, he didn't hide his plans. On the afternoon of the first day, Wang Sheng arrived. Everyone in the camp already knew about Wang Sheng's plan. This time, all the masters couldn't sit still. Everyone knew that the core of the grounds of Thousand Extremes was dangerous, but at the same time, everyone knew that there would definitely be greater wealth and opportunities in the core. It was a rare opportunity that was far more tempting than cultivating in the camp near the core. Even Wang Sheng was entering the core of the grounds of Thousand Extremes for the first time. It could be said that anyone who followed Wang Sheng and would not have made a wasted trip as long as they could survive. Although Wang Sheng didn't intend to invite anyone to accompany him, these people had already used their various connections to find him. They only had one goal, and that was to hope that Wang Sheng would bring them along when he entered the core of the grounds of Thousand Extremes. For this, these people were even willing to pay a price that far exceeded the cost of cultivating in the camp. What kind of joke is this? When Wang Sheng received the message, he immediately refused. I have never entered the core area before. This is a journey with a slim chance of survival. I don't even know if I can come back alive. If it wasn't for the fear of threatening the camp, I wouldn't go myself. I don't have the confidence to bring anyone in. The more Wang Sheng refused, the more enthusiastic the crowd became. The masters who thought that they were qualified finally came to him personally. After a lot of persuasion, Wang Sheng finally relented. However, there was a precondition. Regardless of life or death, Wang Sheng couldn't guarantee everyone's safety. No one had any objections. This was the first person to enter the core area of the grounds of Thousand Extremes in the past 500 years. Even if the various forces fought to the death, they would still send people in, lest they fall behind. When LV1Ho's report arrived, a team of 15 people, including Wang Sheng, had already been organized and were ready to set off at any time. Chapter 551. Everyone, let's get straight to the point. I don't have any confidence in this trip either. Wang Sheng faced the 14 experts and began to instruct them. So, if you really encounter any danger that you can't avoid, fight if you can't. If you can't, just run. Don't hesitate. The more Wang Sheng put it straight to the point, the less people suspected anything else. This was an overt plot. No one forced anyone, and those who were willing to take the bait. Originally, Wang Sheng wanted to go in alone to see what kind of experts there were, whether they would pose a threat to the campsite, and whether they would affect the operations of the campsite, so as to avoid delaying the earning of gold coins. Out of consideration for their own interests, no one was invited, and no one was forced. It was them who insisted on going in, so if something happened, no one could be blamed, especially the top experts from the vassal states. After cultivating here for a few months, they felt signs of a breakthrough, but in the end, something like this happened. This was the first time they had such a great opportunity to enter the core of the grounds of Thousand Despair. If they missed it, even if they had a breakthrough in their cultivation, they would probably be scolded to death by the vassal states when they returned to their own countries. So, even if they knew that there was a slim chance of survival, these experts would still risk their lives to go in. Once they found any clues, it would be a great benefit to their respective vassal states. If they could really find the Lin family valley that was recorded in the ancient books, then needless to say, all the vassal states would definitely be willing to pay any price to obtain it. Wang Sheng asked everyone to fight if they could, and run if they could. This showed that he was not forcing them, and, on the contrary, it made these people trust him even more. If no one wants to back out, let everyone have a rough idea of your cultivation. Since no one wanted to back out, it was better to get to know each other, in case there were any mistakes in their cooperation. By the time the 14 of them reported their cultivation, Wang Sheng himself was too embarrassed to say it out. Everyone was at least at the peak of the 8th-stage realm, and the strongest was already at the 9th-stage realm. Moreover, he had just broken through a few days ago. The various vassal states did indeed have a group of youths with extremely high potential. In fact, the oldest among them was not even 40 years old. Let's make this clear first. No matter what grudges you have outside, once you're inside, no one is allowed to fight each other. If you want to settle it, come out and settle it. Do you agree? Wang Sheng set another rule before assigning tasks. Agreed, agreed, agreed. No one disagreed. Back when they were still in the outskirts of the lands of Thousand Extremities, they already knew that they couldn't easily make a move in the lands of Thousand Extremities. Now that they were going to the core of the lands of despair, there was no need to even mention it. Anyone who made a move would definitely implicate everyone else, and they would definitely be attacked by everyone else. Who knows about formations? Wang Sheng asked again. A member of the Tang family raised his hand. The others turned to look. When they saw that it was him, No one said anything. Wang Sheng directly threw a formation stone to the Tang family expert. The expert was stunned for a moment, but Wang Sheng had already started to explain. This formation stone can amplify the slightest fluctuation of a formation by 10 times. I'm afraid that there might be some formations inside that are impossible to guard against. You have to take this and be careful at all times. Don't let anyone get trapped inside. Logically speaking, no one would know if there were any formations inside the core of the lands of thousand extremities. However, when Wang Sheng said this, those people didn't seem the slightest bit surprised. It was obvious that they must have some insider information passed down from their families. Just as Wang Sheng was about to continue, another burst of aura suddenly erupted from the direction of the core of the lands of thousand extremities. Just like before, it disappeared in a flash, but everyone's expressions changed. A group of people quickly rushed out of the room and arrived at the open space in the middle of the campsite. Not only them, but almost everyone who was cultivating in the campsite also rushed out. Ever since that burst of aura, very few people had gone into closed-door cultivation for long periods of time. Most of them only cultivated for short periods of time. After waiting for a while and seeing that there were no signs of anyone leaving, everyone returned to Wang Sheng's room with unfriendly expressions. That aura earlier, how high is everyone's estimated cultivation realm? The moment Wang Sheng sat down, he didn't wait for anyone to speak and directly asked. The 14 of them looked at each other and no one opened their mouths. It seemed as though no one wanted to say it, but no one seemed to have the confidence. Still hiding at this time? Wang Sheng frowned, and his tone immediately turned unfriendly. If they were to cooperate in this way, these people would be sending themselves to death if they went in. There's no way to confirm. It's hard to say. In order to avoid embarrassment, the expert from Tang family opened his mouth first. Roughly estimated, higher than all of you? Lower than all of you? Everyone has an estimate. Let's all say it out so that everyone can be mentally prepared. Wang Sheng's tone also eased up a little as he slowly said, "You guys speak first. After you've finished, I'll talk about my judgment." Ninth stage peak. The Tang family expert's prediction. Ninth stage late stage. The Dai family expert's prediction. Ninth stage peak. The Song family expert's prediction. Ninth stage late stage. The Gan family expert's prediction. After a series of words, none of them were lower than ninth stage late stage. Everyone's expression turned ugly. The highest cultivation here was merely a ninth stage early stage. To face a ninth stage late stage, or even a peak expert, no one had the confidence. Wang Sheng sighed silently in his heart. Old Taoist Qingchen himself had just entered the ninth stage peak, and his aura had resonated with the experts inside. That expert old Taoist judgment was higher than ninth stage peak. None of these people present had judged correctly, as they had all underestimated him. This also meant that it would be good if one or two of them could come out alive. Luckily, these people were all from various vassal states. Even if they all lost their lives, Wang Sheng wouldn't feel heartache. What he was concerned about was how he could make use of this opportunity to investigate the situation inside. Seeing that everyone was waiting for him to speak, Wang Sheng didn't continue to remain silent as he voiced out his own judgment. Cultivation realm. My personal cultivation is slightly lower, so I won't embarrass myself. But one thing I can confirm is that this expert's position is the same as the previous time. He hasn't moved. How could that be? How did you know? The moment Wang Sheng's words fell, everyone started to ask questions. Wang Sheng made a hand gesture, and everyone shut their mouths. The scene instantly quietened down. At this moment, Wang Sheng then voiced out the reason for his judgment. This is a personal ability of mine. My spatial positioning sense has always been more accurate. This is also the reason why I never had to worry about getting lost in the thousand despair grounds. I compared the previous and this time's approximate position. Wang Sheng pointed to his own head. The distance between the two shouldn't be more than a mile. Believe me, in this aspect, I'm more professional than all of you added together by 10 times. Chapter 552. Wang Sheng's professional skills were a secret. At least everyone thought so. but now it was exposed because of the aura of an expert. No one would be stupid enough to question Wang Sheng's professionalism, just as everyone always believed that if there was one person who could enter the land of thousand despair and come out alive, it must be Wang Sheng. In addition, Wang Sheng's judgment was absolutely valuable. They must send the news back to their respective vassal states before they set off. Basically, after determining the time to set off, everyone excused themselves to go back to prepare and returned. As soon as they returned to their rooms, they immediately called their good friends over and quickly told them to send the news back as soon as possible. Every vassal state here wanted to send a message with a messenger bird, but except for a group of flying demon beasts specially trained by the Imperial Treasure House, as long as the messenger birds of the other vassal states were released, they simply could not fly out of the land of thousand despair and would be killed by a variety of flying demon beasts midway. Therefore, if a state wanted to send a message, the fastest way was to send people to Worry-Free City and then transfer through Worry-Free City. However, even if this route was used, it would take at least 10 days to reach Worry-Free City. By that time, everyone would have already set off, and it would be impossible to get a reply. The news from the various states did not arrive, but the news from the Imperial Treasure House did. This was LV Wunho's fastest reply after the camp's supervisor reported what happened here to LV Wunho. The secretly trained flying demon beasts came in handy. Unfortunately, the only drawback was that their flying speed was slower than the messenger birds. It took a full day and night to receive a reply. Seeing the reply, the camp supervisor also breathed a sigh of relief. The young master had made the necessary arrangements. Now it was more stable. Holding LV Wunho's reply, the camp supervisor went directly to Wang Sheng and presented the letter to Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng was not surprised to receive the letter from the camp supervisor. It would be surprising if there was no response from the Imperial Treasure House in 2 days. The meaning of LV Wunho's letter was very clear. First of all, as another shareholder of the campsite, he expressed his appreciation and gratitude towards Wang Sheng for taking the initiative to think for the campsite. In addition, in order to thank Wang Sheng for his efforts, the Imperial Treasure House will be responsible for the recovery of the price paid by all the experts who followed Wang Sheng on this trip, and not a single coin will be sent to Wang Sheng's residence in Worry-Free City. If something were to happen to Wang Sheng, he would be responsible for sending all of Wang Sheng's businesses and people to Mayer. Secondly, the Imperial Treasure House stored several secret life-saving equipment in the camp for high-level people, and they would also prepare it for Wang Sheng to carry with him. 2 of them could block a legendary expert's attack at a critical moment, giving Wang Sheng time to escape. Moreover, the Imperial Treasure House hired a red card killer who was currently cultivating in the campsite at a high price to act as Wang Sheng's bodyguard and enter the core of the place of Thousand Despair together with him. This was an order issued directly through the Lord of Worry-Free City by the Imperial Treasure House. The red card killer would soon rendezvous with Wang Sheng. It could be said that LV Wunho was completely supportive of Wang Sheng in this matter. Except for the fact that he did not fight on the front line, everything that could be prepared within 2 days was basically ready. Such a partner was much better than the one Bao Qin Yutang had before. Very soon, the camp supervisor delivered a storage ring. Inside it was the food, water, clothes, and other supplies that Wang Sheng needed. There was also a full set of snake medicine and tools for surviving in the wilderness. The life-saving equipment that LV Wunho had promised him was also inside. The camp supervisor took them out and demonstrated to Wang Sheng how to use them one by one, until Wang Sheng nodded his head after learning them seriously. The supervisor did not expect that Wang Sheng would really learn how to use those things meticulously. He thought that Wang Sheng would impatiently take them and study them by himself. The few experts he had encountered before were all like this, as if they thought they knew everything. Wang Sheng never had such an idea and was very serious about learning. If Wang Sheng knew what the supervisor was thinking, he would definitely laugh. When Wang Sheng was on Earth, he never felt that he had mastered all the tools. What was the purpose of training? Wasn't it to master skills and master the use of various equipment? How could this be omitted? The red card killer also surprised Wang Sheng. He thought that this red card killer should be an old killer like old Taoist Ling Su, but he did not expect it to be a strong man in his 40s who looked about the same age as Bloodknife. His looks were not shocking, and he seemed inconspicuous in the entire camp. No one thought that he was an expert. Unexpectedly, he was a red card killer who had been hiding in the camp. To be able to reach the level of a red card killer, it meant that he must have assassinated 8-stage experts, or even more than one. But he had been in the camp for more than half a year, and this red card killer had not attracted anyone's attention, including the camp supervisor. If it wasn't for LV Hose, a flying demon beast, that brought the token of the Lord of Worry-Free City and explained his identity, even the supervisor would not know that he was such a dangerous person. The mission given to the red card killer was secret, and even the camp supervisor had no way to see it. The mission content was sent in a 3-phase exquisite seal box, and the seal box could only be opened by the red card killer. After reading the mission content inside, the red card killer had destroyed everything inside. Wang Sheng did not care about this at all. It did not matter if one more red card killer followed him. Anyway, LV Wenho was paying for it. But one more expert meant one more layer of security. As for whether there would be any disloyalty, Wang Sheng firmly believed that the other 14 people who followed him would definitely have 14 hearts, and it was impossible for them to be on the same side. One more wouldn't make a difference, and one less wouldn't make a difference. The 16 of them gathered into a small team and set off once again. Before they set off, Wang Sheng reiterated once again that it was very dangerous inside, and there was a slim chance of survival. Those who did not wish to die could back out. The result was obvious. No one would back out in public. Hence, Wang Sheng waved his hand, and the small team left the camp, disappearing into the grounds of Thousand Extremes. We will walk along the core boundary of the grounds of Thousand Extremes for about 100 miles. Wang Sheng led the team to the core boundary and ordered, while we are walking, use your best sense to find out which area is the most suitable to enter. This is for everyone's lives, so please be alert. I don't want to be attacked by strong demonic beasts the moment we step into the core boundary. Everyone agreed and started to follow Wang Sheng, walking along the core boundary of the grounds of Thousand Extremes. Chapter 553. Speaking of which, have any of you seen a demonic beast disguised as a human before? Along the way, everyone carefully explored the grounds of Thousand Extremes, using their own methods and senses to explore, afraid that they might miss out on something. Wang Sheng looked at the nervous expressions on everyone's faces and couldn't help but ask to ease the atmosphere. Wang Sheng's question caused everyone to be stunned. A demonic beast disguised as a human? What level would it take to do that? Legendary realm? The group of people shook their heads in unison. The highest cultivation level among them was only at the early stage of the 9th degree realm, and he had just broken through recently. How would they have the chance to see a demonic beast in the legendary realm? Looking at everyone shaking their heads, Wang Sheng had a strong premonition. Perhaps they might be able to see a so-called demonic beast in human form when they entered the core of the grounds of Thousand Extremes. No one objected to Wang Sheng's suggestion to find a suitable entry point. This was the prudent way to go. If Wang Sheng had led everyone to randomly find a place to enter, it would have made everyone despair. The reason why they chose to find a breakthrough point within 100 miles of this area was because this was the direction that Wang Sheng felt was the closest to the aura of the expert. Everyone did their best. That was especially true for the expert from the Tang family. He used the array stone that Wang Sheng had given him to check the core area for any magic array fluctuations. Thanks to that, he was able to pinpoint 3 magic arrays. Wang Sheng had memorized the locations and areas of the 3 formations in his head. When he was free, he would mark them on the electronic map that Wang Sheng had drawn. They were all experts, and in addition to the fact that Wang Sheng was in a hurry to drive away most of the insects that could harm them, it only took 3 days for them to find 3 entry points within 100 miles of the area. There were no formations at these 3 points, and they didn't feel any strong aura either. They all looked suitable. Hence, The final decision was handed over to Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng's senses had always been sharp in the grounds of thousand extremities. He was not the only one who had witnessed Wang Sheng's ability to detect demonic beasts in advance and avoid them from afar. Therefore, it was not a problem for Wang Sheng to make the decision. After carefully recalling the feeling he got from the three areas, Wang Sheng chose the middle point. Everyone obeyed the order and headed straight for that area. It's not too late to turn back now. Is there anyone who wants to withdraw? Standing at the edge of the very obvious aura dividing boundary, Wang Sheng let out a long breath and asked everyone. 15 people, each with a different expression. The red card assassin was like a guy who had never seen the world and was observing his surroundings. Two familiar experts were chatting, and the expert from the Tang family was carefully looking at the formation stone. In short, no one responded to Wang Sheng's words. This was simply nonsense. They were already at the door. How could they let these fellows back out? How could this be? Putting aside the pressure from the various vassal states behind them, just the aura inside and the possible impact it might have on their cultivation were enough to make these cultivation maniacs risk their lives. Anyone who came here and still backed out would be a fool. Let's go. Wang Sheng also realized that he had asked a stupid question. However, this kind of constant psychological suggestion made people cherish this kind of opportunity even more. Even if someone died inside, as long as one of them could come out, they would probably brag about it for Wang Sheng. Taking the lead, Wang Sheng raised his foot and stepped over the line. Although no one could see the line, everyone could feel it. It was an invisible line that really existed. The two sides of the line were the core and the periphery of the grounds of Thousand Despair. Hiss! As soon as they entered the inner circle, Wang Sheng subconsciously took a deep breath and then gasped. The spiritual energy inside was simply too rich. It was as if the difference between the two sides of the line was 2 times that of the other side. Wang Sheng was not the only one who gasped. Everyone who had entered the place had the same surprised expression. If they were to cultivate inside, their efficiency would be at least 2 times faster than outside. The periphery of the grounds of Thousand Despair was already an enviable place for cultivation, but the core area was even more so. No one knew what kind of surprise would be waiting for them inside. After carefully inspecting the area, regardless of whether it was their own senses or the feedback from the formation stone of the Tang family's formation master, even Wang Sheng's group did not detect any powerful Yao beasts up ahead. Thus, they could proceed forward without any worries. Some people had already noticed that along the way, there were not many of those small bugs that had caused them so much headaches. After all, these seemingly inconspicuous but extremely dangerous bugs had taken at least 10 lives from each of their clans. But now, they did not appear at all. What did this mean? Everyone was well aware of this, but no one said anything. So what if they knew? The most important thing now was to see what was in the core area of the grounds of Thousand Despair and see if they could find the location of that expert. The group walked forward for a few miles as if they were walking on thin ice. Fortunately, apart from the dense jungle and some small beasts that weren't worth mentioning, they didn't encounter anything frightening along the way. It seemed that they were heading in the right direction. There seemed to be something different ahead. Wang Sheng's intuition told him that something was amiss. There was no reaction from the Tang family's expert, so the formation stone should be normal. This difference was not because of any danger, but because it was something indescribable. Watch your step. Wang Sheng had just reminded them when the expert who was leading the way suddenly stepped on air. His whole body slid forward and disappeared without a trace. Everyone hurriedly stood still and looked forward from the path that the expert had taken. Everyone was stunned by the incredible scene in front of them. They even forgot to care about their companion, who had suddenly disappeared. The group was still standing in a forest, but when they pushed aside the shrubs and vines, they suddenly saw a huge basin in front of them. It was as if the ground under their feet had been cut open by a knife. If it was just a change in the terrain, no one would be so shocked. More importantly, the huge basin in front of them was completely covered in ice and snow. One step away, it was still a tropical forest, but the next step, it had turned into solid ice. How could they not be shocked by such a magical change? A series of screams woke everyone up. Only then did they realize that the reason why their companion had suddenly disappeared was because he had stepped on air and slipped down the edge of the ice. Because he was surrounded by ice, he was caught off guard and had no way to stop himself. He slid all the way to the bottom. He had to take out a weapon in time to stab it into the ice to stabilize his body. However, just when everyone thought that there was no big problem, a sudden change occurred. A white figure leaped out from the ice and pounced on his companion. Chapter 554. The drop between the basin and the jungle was almost more than 300 meters high. Because the edges were all smooth ice cubes, although the companion fell very quickly, it could almost be said that he was sliding down. Apart from the slightly faster speed on the ice, he did not suffer any injuries. But he had no way to avoid the white shadow that suddenly sprang out. Up above, Wang Sheng and the others could clearly see that it was a white wolf. For now, they did not know what rank it was. However, its speed was astonishing. It pounced on its companion below and bit down on the throat of its companion. The falling expert reacted very quickly. He did not have time to pull out the weapon used to fix his body and directly let go, but very quickly took out a short dagger from his storage ring and stabbed it at the white wolf. Crack! The white wolf's big mouth did not bite the expert's throat, only biting the expert's other arm that was blocked in time. And the expert's short dagger pierced more than half an inch into the white wolf's body. But that was all. As soon as the white wolf was stabbed, its figure flashed, as if it also felt the pressure of the people above, and quickly left. Only a trace of blood was left on the ice. Wang Sheng and the others above had already begun to go down. Wang Sheng took a rope that was long enough and directly tied it to the trunk of a big tree that was thick enough, and then took the lead to slide down. When everyone safely went down, Wang Sheng had already rushed to the side of the expert who fell at the beginning. When looking from above, it did not feel that the injury was that serious, but when he got closer, he realized that he was in trouble. The hand that the expert used to block the white wolf's bite had actually been mostly broken, leaving only a small layer of skin and flesh attached. In such a short time, the expert had already lost a lot of blood, and his face was pale. If it was not for the fact that his cultivation was high enough to resist, he would have already fainted. Everyone gave first aid, stopped the bleeding, bandaged the wound, and swallowed medicine. Finally, the injured expert regained the ability to move. But everyone knew that among the people present, he was probably the one in the most danger, and it was very likely that he would not be able to get out. Surrounded by a world of ice and snow, the white wolf just now seemed to have hidden under the ice and snow and suddenly jumped out to attack. Even Wang Sheng, who had the warning function of the battle consciousness homunculus, could not detect it at a distance of less than a kilometer, let alone the others. According to Wang Sheng's estimation, the place where the expert's aura erupted was about 20 to 30 kilometers away. But the first core region's demonic beast they had just met made an 8-stage realm expert lose an arm in just one move, so everyone's hearts were heavy. Of course, they had to continue, but everyone was secretly more vigilant. No one had expected that the core area of the Lands of Despair would be a world of ice and snow. Without the cover of the forest, their field of vision was much wider, but the dangers hidden under the snow were no less than in the forest. The group of people carefully avoided all kinds of icebergs and icicles. After walking for less than 5 kilometers, they were attacked again. This time, the expert who was attacked was not so lucky. Half of his head was sent flying by a white bear, and his whole body was instantly turned into an ice sculpture. Without even sparing a glance at Wang Sheng and the others, the huge white bear, which was at least 10 zhang in length, swaggered away with its prey in its mouth. None of the others made a move. The bear was too big, and its whole body was covered in ice and snow. From afar, everyone thought it was a small iceberg. The leader wanted to go around it, but he did not expect to be treated as prey. The white bear did not seem to have any strong demonic beast aura, but the group felt more and more danger. If they could not sense the aura, they would not be able to discover it in advance. Wang Sheng finally confirmed that the battle consciousness homunculus was still able to sense the demonic beasts in the core region. But the distance had been greatly shortened. When they were outside, Wang Sheng was able to detect strong demonic beasts from a kilometer away. But now the alert range was at most less than 200 meters, and they still had to distinguish whether it was an iceberg or a demonic beast. The atmosphere was tense, but Wang Sheng's performance was getting more and more incomprehensible. That companion of theirs was definitely impossible to save. Everyone knew that. But what was Wang Sheng doing now? At the place where the white bear had been sitting, Wang Sheng was holding a metal rod as thick as an arm, digging away at the ice and snow. What was he trying to do? No one understood, and they did not know what was going on with Wang Sheng. Everyone maintained their vigilance. They had to watch Wang Sheng's movements while keeping an eye on their surroundings. If it weren't for the fact that Wang Sheng had always displayed his authority in the Thousand Despair grounds, someone would have questioned him long ago. The only one who helped was the red card assassin from the worry-free city. He seemed to have complete trust in Wang Sheng's actions. Wang Sheng was digging away at the ice and snow, and he was also holding a metal rod. Soon, the two of them had dug a hole that was 2 meters deep. When they saw the situation under the ice and snow that Wang Sheng had dug, even the calmest Tang family expert in the group could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Under the ice and snow, there was still ice and snow, but there were some places that were different. It was the top of a large tree, and all kinds of branches and leaves were sealed under the ice. They were vivid and lifelike, as if they were still alive. Seeing this, everyone seemed to understand what Wang Sheng was doing. However, even though they had already seen some answers, Wang Sheng continued to dig. He and the red card assassin were very fast, and in a short time, they had dug more than 10 meters deep, almost touching the ground under the ice. Found it! As everyone was still feeling confused, Wang Sheng, who was inside the crater, finally shouted, "Pull us up!" The people above put down the rope and pulled Wang Sheng and the red card assassin out of the ice pit. In Wang Sheng's other hand, there was an object that looked like a stone wrapped in ice. There seemed to be some writing on it. The ice on the surface of the stone was rapidly melted by someone using spirit energy, revealing its original appearance. Looking at the square-shaped stone tablet with the word "die" inscribed on it, Wang Sheng shouted at the expert from the Dai clan without hesitation, "Dai Laochi, come over here and take a look. Is this something from your clan?" Dai Laochi did not expect to find something related to the Dai family under the ice in the core of the grounds of Thousand Despair. He hurried forward and examined it carefully. Although the others did not touch it directly, they were also looking at the small stone tablet. After looking at it a few times, Dai Laochi finally came to a conclusion. He stood up and said to Wang Sheng excitedly, "This is the boundary stone of the Dai family from hundreds of years ago. It is used to mark our territory. In other words, where we are now should be the Dai family's territory." Wang Sheng asked with a teasing smile. Chapter 555. Wang Sheng and the Dai family, and the Dai family and Wang Sheng could be said to have an irreconcilable hatred. Wang Sheng killed the Dai family's young master, fourth Master Dai, and Dai Wuji. From the Dai family patriarch down, almost everyone wanted Wang Sheng dead. But that was outside the grounds of Thousand Extremes. Inside the grounds of Thousand Extremes, if the Dai family wanted to use the Imperial Treasury's campsite, they had to maintain enough respect for Wang Sheng. If they wanted to enter the core of the grounds of Thousand Extremes, they had to do so, or else they wouldn't even have the chance. Similarly, Wang Sheng wouldn't do anything to the Dai family's experts in the campsite or when they were accompanied by many experts. Both sides maintained sufficient restraint and limited cooperation. Wang Sheng couldn't help but ridicule this sentence just now, and at the same time, it was also what the other experts wanted to ask. Wang Sheng knew that one day, 500 years ago, all the big families joined forces to attack the Lin family's territory to deal with the world's #1 expert at that time. However, these experts from the various clans might not know. This was a top secret, a secret that only the patriarchs or the Elders Guild were qualified to know. Obviously, these people in front of him weren't qualified to know. This time, entering the core of the grounds of Thousand Extremes was also an accident. No one was prepared in advance, and they were only here to cultivate and break through. Even the Dai family's expert, known as Seventh Master, didn't know what was going on. So even if Wang Xing asked in a mocking tone, he couldn't explain it, and it was even more impossible for him to do anything to Wang Sheng under such circumstances in front of so many experts. Wang Sheng said this deliberately. Even if he knew the answer, he had no obligation to explain it to these people. At the same time, if these people went out in the future, they might provide some wrong information to the families and decision-makers behind them. At least they would think that Wang Sheng didn't know anything. Faced with the group's confusion, Wang Sheng's heart was as clear as a mirror. This area was probably the territory that was temporarily divided by the big families after they killed their way in. Just as Wang Sheng said, if they really counted, they might really be standing on the Dai family's territory. No matter what the answer was, this was another exciting piece of news. Everyone had already memorized the so-called boundary steel. As for how Wang Sheng knew that there would be such a thing several dozen zhang below the surface of the ice, none of them asked. Everyone knew that even if they asked, Wang Sheng would not answer. The red card assassin from Worry-Free City was very responsible. He was always near Wang Sheng, ready to assist Wang Sheng at any time. Wang Sheng was very satisfied, but at the same time, he was also very vigilant. Being able to support Wang Sheng at any time also meant being able to attack Wang Sheng at any time. This was a double-edged sword. He put the boundary steel into his storage ring. This was dug out by Wang Sheng and the red card assassin together. It was Wang Sheng's spoils of war. Although Dai Laochi was very unconvinced, he could only watch and think of a way to exchange for it after they got out. As for now, it belonged to Wang Sheng. We found a boundary steel that might be hiding some secrets. Wang Sheng turned to the others and asked, "Now, do we continue forward or do we turn back?" Before they set off, their goal was to investigate the situation of the expert who had released the aura. But now they had just entered the core of the land of Thousand Despair, and one was dead and one was injured. Now was the time to test everyone's determination. A boundary marker was something from 500 years ago. Every family might have a record of it. If they took it out, it might be useful or useless. It was far from enough to satisfy everyone's appetite. These experts were not fools. After a moment of consideration, they chose to continue forward. Everyone knew that there was definitely danger ahead, but no one had any reason to retreat. At least if they did not understand the expert who had released the aura, turning back was actually no different from doing nothing. The world of ice and snow was different from surviving in the forest. As far as the eye could see, there was a vast expanse of whiteness. Even if there were some protrusions, they were all icebergs or large icicles covered with a thick layer of ice and snow. Apart from white, there were no other colors. After walking for another 5 miles, they could no longer see the original forest. In front of them, there was either ice or snow, or terrifying demonic beasts hiding under the snow or on top of it. It seemed that all the demonic beasts in the core of the land of Thousand Despair would conceal their aura. Everyone had no choice but to raise their spirits and continue forward with the highest vigilance. According to Wang Sheng's judgment, as long as they walked another 10 miles, they would be able to find traces of the expert's activities. This gave everyone hope. If they could really find a human expert in the core of the land of Thousand Despair, then everyone would go crazy. If there was a human, it meant that they could communicate with him. Who knows, it might be easier and safer to enter the core of the land of Thousand Despair. Even so, on the way, the team still lost 2 people. One was at the peak of the 8th degree realm, and the other was at the beginning of the 9th degree realm. All of this was caused by 2 monstrous beasts. 2 monstrous beasts that were as white as snow. One was a white tiger, and the other was a white fox. The 8th degree peak cultivator was bitten off by the white tiger and carried away. The 9th degree early stage cultivator fell into an ice cave and died from blood loss after his legs were bitten off by the white fox. The ice cave was very deep, more than 200 feet deep. The expert who fell and only let out a few screams. Wang Sheng and the rest were basically certain that there was no need to save him. Even if they managed to save him, he would only be a burden to them. At least one person needed to carry him. But under such circumstances, who would be willing to carry him? If they were from the same family, it would be fine. After all, they were a family. But the problem was, there were obviously more than 10 people from different forces. Why should they risk their lives to bring them out? 16 people had now become 13, and one of them was injured with half an arm broken. But now, with the exception of Wang Sheng and the red card assassin, everyone else seemed to be frightened by the mere twang of a bow. The slightest sign of trouble would make everyone nervous. They continued to move forward, and when they went around a huge ice pillar, Wang Sheng suddenly gave a signal for everyone to stay put. Don't think that Wang Sheng's cultivation was the lowest, but Wang Sheng's words were obeyed like an imperial edict. If it wasn't for Wang Sheng, they would have lost not just 3 people, but 7. Just as everyone was wondering why Wang Sheng had called for a halt, an extremely violent aura suddenly erupted not too far away from them. It carried with it a tremendous might, instantly enveloping everyone within it. Ants. The moment the aura exploded, everyone could only feel that they were ants. Chapter 556. Even the expert with the highest cultivation was like a toddler who had just learned how to walk in the face of this violent aura, immature to the extreme. The aura carried with it a majestic aura that pressed everyone firmly onto the ice surface. Their minds were filled with a kind of terror, as if they were facing the master of life and death. Just the aura alone was enough to make everyone lose the courage to make a move. One could only imagine how terrifying that aura was. Fortunately, this aura only lasted for a brief moment. It didn't last for too long before it completely disappeared. All 13 of them were crawling on the ice surface, looking battered and exhausted. However, no one laughed at each other. After calming down for a while, they looked at Wang Sheng in surprise, as if wondering how Wang Sheng knew that there would be an expert's aura erupting at this time. Wang Sheng did not explain, but stretched out his hand and pointed at the small ice slope in front of him, not saying a word. Everyone's gaze turned to the small ice slope, their eyes sparkling. However, no one moved. After looking at the ice slope, everyone was still waiting for Wang Sheng's guidance. Not letting down the expectations of the crowd, Wang Sheng used his actions to set an example for everyone. He started to use the most standard military training to crawl forward, using both his hands and feet, crawling up the ice slope bit by bit. The group of people looked at Wang Sheng's actions and looked at each other. Then, no one said anything and followed Wang Sheng's example, carefully crawling forward. The 12 experts, who were at least in the 8th degree realm, were crawling on a small ice slope in the core of the ground of 1,000 despair like worms, crawling cautiously, not even daring to stand up. However, none of these experts would laugh at others, and, similarly, none of them felt that what they were doing was beneath their status. In front of an expert who could easily crush them into dregs with his aura, what was so embarrassing about crawling carefully to take a look? If they really dared to stand up and provoke him, then they must be tired of living. Wang Sheng had already climbed to the top of the ice slope, and then he carefully stuck his head out to take a look. Following that, his expression changed greatly, and he quickly retreated. As he retracted his hand, he didn't forget to make a shushing gesture to everyone and signal for them to slow down. The experts were very obedient and tried to lighten their movements as much as possible. Then, they climbed to the top of the ice slope in line with Wang Sheng. When Wang Sheng asked everyone to be careful, they followed Wang Sheng's gesture and quietly stuck their heads out. With just a single glance, everyone's expressions changed drastically. Then, they quickly retracted their heads. Everyone's eyes were filled with disbelief. Some people even suspected that they were seeing things, but the expressions of their companions around them reminded them that they were not seeing things. What they saw was the truth. Although it was just a glance, with the eyesight of these experts, it was enough for them to see many things clearly. Behind a small ice slope was an ice basin that was not very large. It was about a few thousand feet in radius and was as smooth as a mirror. If that was all there was to it, it would not be enough to cause everyone to be so shocked. However, the fact that there was a snow-white person sitting on the mirror-like ice surface was enough to make everyone so shocked that they did not know what to do. Thinking about the violent aura just now, it was not difficult for them to confirm that the owner of that aura was that snow-white person, which was also the source of the uneasiness of the entire campsite. Everyone was actually only a few thousand feet away from this peerless expert. Thinking about this, everyone's hair stood on end. Just by releasing his aura, the other party was able to suppress everyone to the point that they did not dare to raise their heads. What would happen if he really rushed over? Wang Sheng made another gesture, telling everyone to take a careful look and leave immediately. Everyone nodded slightly, and no one had any objections. They all stuck their heads out in unison. This time, everyone was prepared to look a little longer. However, the expert sitting on the ice surface did not seem to like being stared at by everyone. When everyone looked for more than 5 seconds, everyone heard a cold snort mixed with anger. Oomph. Every expert who heard this sound felt as if they had been struck by lightning. There was a roar in their minds. The weakest expert with a broken arm even fainted after hearing this cold snort. The others, including Wang Sheng, were still fine. However, all of them did the same thing. They quickly retracted their heads and rolled down the small ice slope. As they rolled down, everyone's minds were buzzing, and they felt dizzy. They could not get up for a long time. Wang Sheng knew very well that this was the result of a strong shock to the semicircular canal in the ear, causing a temporary loss of balance in the human body. This was the feeling of being hit by a stun grenade on Earth. In a situation where there was no earmuffs and no help, the way to recover was to lie on the ground for a period of time and rely on the human body's own adjustment to alleviate this feeling of imbalance. Therefore, after Wang Sheng rolled down, he lay down obediently and did not move. However, the experts were different, including the red card assassin. Except for the expert with a broken arm, who was lying motionless on the ice slope, the others tried to stand up as soon as they rolled to the ground, but no one succeeded. After standing up and falling again, they continued to fall more than a dozen times. Only then did everyone see Wang Sheng lying motionlessly on the ground, looking at them with pity. After another fall, he also laid down obediently and slowly recovered. Finally, the dizziness in his mind was gone, and Wang Sheng sat up carefully. He did not stand up immediately. The right way was to gradually recover his mobility in a small area. The others followed suit and followed Wang Sheng's movements. Even though their cultivation was much higher than Wang Sheng's and their recovery was faster than Wang Sheng's, they did not get up earlier than Wang Sheng. Looking at the motionless expert with a broken arm on the small ice slope, Wang Sheng turned to the others. The meaning in his eyes was very obvious. Should they take that companion and leave? The 11 experts at the bottom of the slope, excluding Wang Sheng, hesitated for a moment when Wang Sheng looked over. Then all shook their heads in unison. What a joke. If they went up and provoked that terrifying expert again, did they not want to go back? That guy was not one of their family. If he died, then so be it. But as long as everyone went out, their families would be able to get important information. Was there a need to choose? Wang Sheng would not oppose the decision of the others. After sitting for a while, he looked up at the unlucky guy on the slope. He knew that he had not woken up yet, and would probably never wake up. The cold here would take away his life bit by bit. Once again, they carefully and slowly moved away from that area. Only when they had escaped 2 miles away did they breathe a sigh of relief. That expert did not chase after them. At this moment, the expert of the Tang family was holding the detection formation stone that Wang Sheng had given him. He suddenly said, "That place is an extremely powerful binding formation. That expert cannot leave that area." As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. Chapter 557. Before they set off, Wang Sheng had said that the position of the master had not moved. Even if he had moved, he was still within a radius of 1 kilometer. Although no one said it out loud, they actually didn't agree with it. However, the statement of the master of the Tang family had verified the judgment of Wang Sheng before they set off. The master was trapped in a binding formation. If this was the case, it could explain why everyone was unaffected when they were a certain distance away, but once they got close to the small ice slope, they were attacked. The problem was that the master was still in a binding state, but he was able to turn everyone into rolling gourds with a cold snort. What kind of realm was this? What kind of master was this? It was ridiculous that a group of people were still speculating whether the other party was at the middle or peak of legendary realm. Do they have the qualifications to judge? Moreover, what kind of binding formation could bind such a master? Everyone's doubts were directed towards the master of the Tang family, who was proficient in formations. I don't know. The master of the Tang family put on a crying face and replied to everyone. At most, I only have a few breaths of time to face such a terrifying master. Do you think I have the time to carefully determine what kind of formation it is? I was lucky to be able to determine that it was a binding formation. At the thought of that terrifying cold snort, cold sweat broke out on everyone's forehead. It was really difficult for the master of the Tang family to divide his attention to determine what kind of formation it was. If it was them, they would definitely not be able to do it. At least, before the master of the Tang family said anything, everyone forgot to determine whether there was a formation or not. The formation is very powerful. The fluctuations of the formation are completely sealed in a certain area. The master of the Tang family held the formation stone in his hand and continued to explain to everyone. Logically speaking, we should be able to detect the fluctuations of such a strong formation from here, but I relied on Lone Wolf's formation stone to magnify the fluctuations by 10 times, but I couldn't detect any fluctuations from this distance. No one, including Wang Sheng, spoke a word. This scene was really unbelievable. Even if everyone except the master of the Tang family was not proficient in formations, they still had some general knowledge about formations. This was obviously contrary to common sense. The core of the land of 1,000 extremities was simply too strange. How could there be such an unusual phenomenon? No one could explain why there was a huge frozen basin in the forest, nor could they explain why the formation was so strange. Of course, the biggest question was the identity of that expert and why he was bound by the binding formation. In addition, when was that expert bound? This made people's imagination run wild. Now there were only 12 people left, including Wang Sheng. Thinking of the abnormality mentioned by the Tang family expert, everyone had an indescribable feeling in their hearts. This feeling was very strange. It felt so unreal. Why are you telling us this? The expert from the Dai clan was still in the group. After a moment of silence, he asked directly, "You're the only one who knows about these things. If you don't tell us, your Tang clan will definitely know some of the secrets of the core of the grounds of Thousand Despair when we return. Why are you telling us?" This was a question that everyone wanted to know apart from Wang Sheng. They were from different families and had different interests. Why would the Tang family reveal such a big secret? What was their motive? We've already lost 4 people, including 2 9th stage realm companions. The Tang family expert didn't hide his thoughts. I'm not sure if I can return alive, so I only hope that those who return alive can bring this news to the Tang family. I'll be grateful. His words were meant for everyone to hear. However, the Tang family expert's gaze was focused on Wang Sheng most of the time. In his heart, perhaps Wang Sheng was the one who had the highest possibility of returning alive. The others probably didn't have much of a chance. Wang Sheng nodded silently. He didn't say anything, but he had already expressed his thoughts. If he could return, he would tell the Tang family expert's discovery. The others also fell silent. The Tang family expert cultivation wasn't the highest in the group, only at 8th stage realm peak. He wasn't injured at all, but he actually had the intention of not being able to leave. This made the others in the group unable to remain calm. We might not be unable to leave. Dai Laochi smiled guiltily and looked towards Wang Sheng. Going back should be easier than coming in, right? Everyone was thinking the same way. When they came in, they advanced step by step, and including that terrifying expert, they only lost 4 people. Could it be that it would be even more dangerous when they returned? Let's see if that expert is willing to let us out. Wang Sheng sighed. His aura eruption can affect our campsite. Hearing Wang Sheng's words, everyone was stunned. The expert's aura eruption had indeed affected the campsite. One must know that it was a straight line distance of about 50 to 60 miles. If he really didn't want to let them out, then this journey would really be troublesome. Everyone's hearts were heavy, and the speed of their journey had increased by a lot. Only thing was as though Tang family's expert was right. The journey out was indeed filled with dangers. When they came in, they only met with 4 demonic beast attacks, and 3 died, and 1 had a severed arm. But when they went out, they only walked halfway and met with 7 demonic beasts. Out of the 12 people, only 8 were left. 3 of them had minor injuries. 1 was seriously injured and had lost his mobility. Only 4 of them were unharmed, and 1 of them was Wang Sheng. It must be said that the reason why Wang Sheng was able to remain unharmed was not entirely due to the red card killer, but at least half of it was due to that red card killer. Wang Sheng could detect danger in advance, but it was limited to a very close distance. Sometimes, even if Wang Sheng detected danger, with his cultivation, he might not be able to evade the sudden attack. Obviously, the demonic beasts in the core region of the Grounds of Thousand Despair were very intelligent and knew to attack the one with the lowest cultivation. Out of the 7 demonic beast attacks, 3 were targeted at Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng himself had evaded 1, and the remaining 2 were saved by that ordinary-looking red card killer. In this kind of situation, everyone could only abandon the companion who had lost his mobility. However, even though they had lost 5 people, they did not come out empty-handed. 2 powerful white demonic beasts were killed by them. One of them was a huge white rat the size of a normal hunting dog. Right now, it was lying in one of Wang Sheng's storage rings. This was also the only demonic beast corpse that his storage ring could contain. Chapter 558. The red card assassin was one of the 3 who had suffered minor injuries. However, he hadn't sustained those injuries when he was rescuing Wang Sheng. Instead, he had sustained those injuries when he had been preyed upon by a demonic beast. The other injured person was the formation master from the Tang clan. He didn't have to keep an eye on the formation stone on the way back. However, he had injured his arm when he had encountered the demonic beast for the 2nd time. Because he had been pulled by Wang Sheng in time, he had managed to avoid being injured in his vital organs. His chest hadn't been injured. He could be considered to be lucky enough to be able to walk. Dai Laochi had actually remained unscathed. This fellow's luck was extremely good. His cultivation wasn't the highest, but it wasn't the lowest either. Unexpectedly, he hadn't suffered a single attack. Of the remaining 3, 2 were unscathed, while the other had suffered minor injuries. Among the people who had escaped, Wang Sheng's cultivation was the lowest. At this moment, the gap between him and the rest of the group was clearly reflected. Among the group of 7, Wang Sheng had to be protected in the middle of the group every time. He had to divert his attention to take care of him. Obviously, he had become a burden to the group. The red card assassin was still all right. His task was to protect Wang Sheng's life. However, Dai Laochi and the other 2 experts were looking at Wang Sheng with an increasingly strange gaze. When the group could see the edge of the basin from afar and the dense forest above, they knew that it wouldn't be too long to return to the camp. Previously, it had been a vast expanse of whiteness. The traces of the group's arrival had been quickly covered by the snow and ice. Without Wang Sheng, who had a very good sense of direction, to guide the way, the group would probably have had to take many detours. They might have even plunged into the depths of the core of the Grounds of Thousand Despair. However, now that they could see the edge of the forest, it meant that they wouldn't get lost again. Basically, at this moment, Wang Sheng's ability as a guide had lost 90% of its usefulness. The burden with the lowest cultivation would be useless in battle. They might even need help to rescue them. Under the pressure of escaping, Dai Laochi finally broke out. He no longer wore that layer of mask and revealed his true face to Wang Sheng. I don't think we need a laggard guide. Dai Laochi and the other 2 warriors of the Shi family and the Xia family stood together. They smiled at Wang Sheng and said, "Without you, We could have gone faster and escaped further. They were all 8th-stage realm and 9th-stage realm top exponents, and if they didn't need to divert their attention to take care of Wang Sheng, they indeed could walk very quickly. Moreover, their own safety would also increase by a lot. This was without a doubt. If the team still had more than a dozen people, then no one would think so, but since they had lost so many people along the way, even the red card assassin was injured because of Wang Sheng, they could not help but blame these experts for having other thoughts. So, Wang Sheng sneered. "You plan to kill me here?" As Wang Sheng spoke, the red card assassin had quietly moved closer to Wang Sheng, clearly indicating that he was on Wang Sheng's side. No matter what kind of bad reputation this red card assassin had in the past, but at least in terms of attitude towards missions, he was much stronger than Dai Laochi and the others by 100 times. "The big road leads to the sky. Let's each take our own path." Dai Laochi shook his head slightly. "I think it's more suitable for us to split up in case we're all wiped out by the demonic beasts and the news won't be able to spread. What do you think?" In this dangerous place, there was no need for Dai Laochi to make a move. As long as they left Wang Sheng alone, the demonic beasts along the way would be able to help Dai Laochi finish off Wang Sheng. Not only would they be able to take revenge for the Dai family and Wang Sheng, the core secret of the 1,000 Despair Grounds was in the hands of the few lucky survivors, so when they returned, it would definitely be a huge merit. "Up to you." Wang Sheng looked at the surroundings as he gave Dai Laochi a sentence. "Let's go." Dai Laochi wasn't like those people who got carried away and insisted on wasting time talking to Wang Sheng, which would only give Wang Sheng an opportunity. Since he had made a decision, he immediately carried it out, not giving Wang Sheng any chance to argue with him. Among the 5 people standing opposite Wang Sheng, 4 of them turned around and left. The remaining one let out a long sigh and stayed behind. "I'll stay with Lone Wolf and the others." The one who stayed was the expert from the Tang family. His arm was injured, and although it didn't affect his movements, his combat strength had decreased by at least half. Dai Laochi and the others wanted to leave. The expert from the Tang family thought for a moment and quickly made a decision. He would stay with Wang Sheng. "Up to you." Dai Laochi wasn't surprised. The expert from the Tang family had been pulled by Wang Sheng, but his arm wasn't injured. This could be considered as a life-saving grace, so it wasn't strange for him to stay. After the expert from the Tang family revealed the discovery of the formation, everyone knew that the expert from the Tang family could be considered a responsible guy. Unfortunately, he wasn't ruthless enough or selfish enough. Otherwise, how tempting would it be to desperately bring this exclusive news out? Since he could make such a decision, it was reasonable for him to stay in order to repay the life-saving grace. Staying was also good. If the people from the Tang family couldn't go out, the 4 families that went out could monopolize the news. As for Wang Sheng and the expert from the Tang family, they never thought that the 3 of them could go out. It turned out that 8 or 9 people had taken care of Wang Sheng, but now there was only 1.5 people taking care of him. It would be strange if he could survive. Dai Laochi and the 3 experts quickly walked to the edge of the jungle. The expert from the Tang family, who had been called Tang Laochi in the team, watched the 4 people leave. Soon, their figures disappeared behind a small iceberg. "Idiots!" Tang Laochi cursed in the direction where Dai Laochi and the others left. He turned back and looked at Wang Sheng. "How do we go? Why did you call them idiots?" Wang Sheng didn't answer Tang Laochi's question. Instead, he asked curiously. "They simply didn't realize that if it weren't for you, they would have encountered at least twice the number of Yao beasts along the way." Tang Laochi shook the formation stone he had given him. This thing can not only amplify the fluctuations of the formation, but can also amplify the aura of some Yao beasts. Although the amplification is very weak, I can still feel it. Hearing Tang Laochi's words, the red card assassin's eyes flashed. Then, it immediately disappeared. No one saw it. Everyone has their own fate. There's no need to force it. With only 3 people left, Wang Sheng wasn't in a hurry to escape with the other 2. This place is not bad. It is relatively safe. Let's rest for half an hour. Your eyes might feel a little uncomfortable. Try to close your eyes and rest for a while. Once you have recovered, we will continue on our way. Wang Sheng's suggestion was very strange. However, the two did not object. They obediently closed their eyes. Tang Laoqi and the red card assassin were filled with doubts. However, Dai Laoqi and the others began to realize that something was wrong. They had only left Wang Sheng and the others for half an hour, but they had already encountered 2 attacks from Yao beasts. Although the 4 of them had worked together to repel the Yao beasts, one of them had inevitably been injured. To make matters worse, the 4 of them began to feel uncomfortable in their eyes. Chapter 559. It was as if something had fallen into their eyes, causing them to feel pain and itch. Not only that, they felt a stinging pain no matter where they looked. They were afraid of light and could not open their eyes. Tears kept welling up in their eyes, and their vision would blur from time to time. This was obviously not caused by a monster. Dai Laoqi and the others did not understand what was going on. They could only subconsciously think that this was the price they had to pay for peeking at the peerless expert. A cold snort almost made all of them faint. So what was so strange about making some punishing action towards their eyes? The 4 of them did not dare to delay. They endured the discomfort in their eyes and rushed to the edge of the basin as soon as possible. In the core of the land of 1,000 extremes, if they could not see their eyes, what was the difference between closing their eyes and walking on the road to death? They rubbed their eyes hard, and their vision seemed to clear up a little. Dai Laoqi and the others did not dare to stop and strode forward. Unfortunately, the snow was knee-deep, and it was difficult to walk fast. When they turned back to look, their footprints had disappeared a few hundred meters away. Even if they turned back to look for Wang Sheng, they would not be able to find him. Even Tang Laowu and the red card assassin, who were resting with their eyes closed, did not know that the discomfort in their eyes was not because of the expert, but because of another reason: snow blindness. A recent study by the U.S. military on Earth showed that the biggest cause of snow blindness was the lack of objects in the snow. When looking, the eyes would automatically find a focal point. In the snow, the eyes would become tense due to the lack of a focal point for a long time. In the end, the muscles of the eyes would contract and cause snow blindness. One solution was to wear high-quality goggles, and the other was to create some contrasting spots in the snow. Wang Sheng had worn military-grade goggles when he entered the basin. Not only that, there were a few special black spots on the goggles as temporary scenery. This allowed Wang Sheng to focus his eyes and completely prevent snow blindness. It was obvious that although these experts had high levels of cultivation, they did not have the experience of marching in the snow. They did not know this technique. And Wang Sheng did not teach them this until Dai Laoqi and the others revealed their true nature. By the time Dai Old 7 and the others had already displayed severe symptoms of snow blindness, Wang Sheng, Tang Old 5, and the red card assassin had just set off. They had chosen a different route. Tang Laowu and the red card assassin were already feeling a little uncomfortable in their eyes, but they were lucky. With Wang Sheng's reminder, they were able to close their eyes and cultivate for a while, so they didn't feel too uncomfortable. Especially when Wang Sheng told them not to rub their eyes no matter how uncomfortable they were, they completely obeyed him. There were only 3 of them, and 2 of them were showing the early symptoms of snow blindness. Wang Sheng did not dare to relax at all. He pushed his combat awareness to the limit. Not only did he fuse all 16 of them into one, but he also continuously used the row formula, trying to discover the monster beast before it discovered him. For times a row, the 3 of them narrowly avoided a few demonic beasts that they couldn't see even a shadow of. Although Tang Laowu couldn't see the demonic beast, he could feel the existence of the terrifying demonic beast 1 to 200 meters away from him. Fortunately, they were with Wang Sheng. Otherwise, they would have to fight 4 times in such a short period of time. However, fighting was definitely unavoidable. Some of the monster beasts were very cunning. They buried themselves under the snow and quietly waited for the prey to come to them. Under such circumstances, even Wang Sheng found it difficult to use the row formula to discover the monster beasts hidden under the thick snow and could only rely on the combat awareness of the minion. Just like in the previous battles, Wang Sheng could call out to warn Tang Laowu and the red card assassin before the monster beasts attacked, but that was all. However, compared to the others, these two trusted Wang Sheng's warnings more. As long as Wang Sheng called out, they would immediately attack without hesitation. Compared to a team of a dozen people, they were much more efficient. However, no matter how efficient they were only 3 people. Although they could kill or chase away the monster beasts with their coordinated attacks, the 3 of them each had a few more wounds on their bodies. In the core of the land of Thousand Despair, almost any monster beast could cause harm to the 3 of them. Wang Sheng's wholeness word formula and formation word formula were useful against those insects outside, but against the large monster beasts, it basically had no effect at all. If it was Wang Sheng alone, he might be able to gain the goodwill of the large monster beasts so that they would not attack him. But when they reached the core region, the effect of increasing intimacy was greatly reduced. Moreover, he was bringing along 2 people, which made it even more useless. The 3 of them were all injured. Although the route which Wang Sheng brought along was slightly winding, they managed to avoid more than 80% of the ferocious monster beasts. Just the depletion of physical strength was not a problem for the 2 of them who were in the 8th and 9th stage realm. Dai Laowu and his side had already faintly realized that they had made a wrong choice. Ever since they left Wang Sheng, the frequency of the monster beast attacks had increased by at least 3 times. The 4 of them were all injured, and the one with the heaviest injuries had a horrifying wound on his chest and leg. From the looks of it, he would not be able to keep up with the team. His eyes were getting more and more painful, and the more he rubbed them, the more he couldn't see clearly. He could only vaguely see the boundary of the basin. As for the monster beast attacks, they could only rely on their ears and each person's unique skills to deal with it. The boundary of the basin looked very close, but the mountain gaze could run a horse to death, and it was still several miles away. Dai Laowu and the other 2 top exponents who could still walk quickly mercilessly abandoned their seriously injured companions as they stepped on their way back. There was one less person who knew, and the family's advantage would be even more obvious. That seriously injured top exponent knew that it was impossible for him to escape, and sensing that Dai Laowu and the other 2 had left, he clenched his teeth and took out a pile of hidden weapons from his storage ring as he started to attack the 3 people who were leaving not too far away. Since he wanted to stay, then the others could forget about leaving alive. The ugliness of human nature was displayed to its fullest at this instance. The sudden attack caused that top exponent from Xia family to similarly fall into a seriously injured state. By the time Dai Laowu and Shi family's top exponent had gotten rid of that partner who launched the attack, they then discovered that they were probably going to lose another partner. Dai Laowu was already regretting it completely as he realized that he had done the most foolish thing in his life. Although Wang Sheng, this guide, had low ability, but he was able to lead them to avoid most of the monster beasts. Unfortunately, he had realized this a little too late. Both of them were injured and their eyes were already half blind. They could barely see anything clearly. Under these circumstances, it was already an extravagant hope for them to cross several miles to reach the boundary of the basin. Meanwhile, in another direction, Wang Sheng, Tang Laowu, and the red card assassin were already less than 5 miles away from the boundary of the basin. Chapter 560. 5 miles was merely 2,500 meters. If it was in the past, this distance would probably only take 2 minutes for 2 8th-stage realm or 9th-stage realm top exponents to cover it swiftly. But now, this 2,500 meters distance seemed as though it was 25,000 miles, that difficult. What made Tang Laowu and the red card killer feel lucky was that they had Wang Sheng by their side. The red card killer's protection had helped him gain Wang Sheng's friendship. Similarly, Tang Laowu's choice of side had also reaped great rewards. Even though their vision was already blurry, Wang Sheng had always been by their side and had never left. He even risked exposing himself to the demonic beast's attacks to guide them. Compared to Tang Laowu and the red card killer, Old Dai and the expert from the Shi family were attacked by the demonic beasts once again. After 2 more wounds were added to their bodies, the 2 of them finally realized that they had run out of medicine. When they set off, each of them had brought along 2 sets of the latest medicine from the Imperial Treasury. But who would have thought that in the core of the Thousand Extremities, a random rat would jump out and injure them? Both of them had almost lost their vision, and all they could see was a blur of whiteness. Not to mention that they were at the edge of the forest several miles away. Even if they were close by, they could only see a blurry shadow. Sense of direction? That was a joke. After battling with the demonic beasts, who would remember which direction they were heading towards? No matter which direction they were in, it was the same blur of whiteness. They were dead meat. Old Dai and the expert from the Sure family were filled with regret. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. What they thought was a burden, now they realized that it was a beacon. Because of a selfish desire to monopolize the secret of the Thousand Extremities core, they had been dragged into the endless abyss. Now that they thought about it, the secret of the Thousand Extremities core was just a small corner of the periphery. They hadn't even entered the door, so how could they talk about the core's secret? Because of such a small profit, they were blinded by greed and foolishly gave up their lives. Without their vision, hearing, and other senses, it was obvious that their injured bodies could not possibly have the same fighting power as when they were in perfect condition. The sudden loss of vision and blindness obviously required a process of adaptation. However, the demonic beasts in the core of the Grounds of Despair did not seem to have the patience to wait for them to adapt. The smell of blood on their bodies, especially the smell of fresh blood, was the best bait to attract demonic beasts. Even if the 2 of them stood still, it was inevitable that there would be demonic beasts attracted by the smell of blood. It wasn't like they were so lucky every time. It was just a small demonic beast that appeared, but this time a big guy appeared. The huge white bear, which was 100 feet tall, was the one that had swallowed one of its companions in one gulp last time. It had already arrived near them. Bang! Bang! With every step it took, its gigantic body would cause the surface of the ice to shake. Without even having to see it, just by feeling the vibrations, Old 7 and Old 7 already knew how big this fellow was. After all, he had experienced it once when he entered. A bitter smile had already appeared on Dai Lauchi's face. He believed that the Sure clan's expert was the same. He wanted to confirm it, but unfortunately, he couldn't see it. Before the white bear reached them, they had already smelt that strong smell of blood. That was the remnant smell of the white bear, which had just swallowed one of their companions not long ago. At that time, when there were more than 10 of them, they could still fight it out if they gathered together. Moreover, at that time, everyone was basically in peak condition. But now, Dai Lauchi had already felt the huge white bear's hot breath on his face. Tang Laowu and the red card assassin had already happily touched the long rope which they used to climb out of the icy snow basin. That was the long rope which they had left behind before they came here. It was convenient for them to use on their way back. Even if their vision wasn't good, as long as they followed along the long rope, they would be able to leave the icy snow basin and enter the forest. When the 3 of them entered the forest, they heaved a long sigh of relief. The minute they entered the forest, Wang Sheng discovered that the warning range of the little man with battle awareness had increased once again, which meant to say that the huge demonic beasts wouldn't have a chance to attack the 3 of them. As for the insects and small-sized demonic beasts in the forest, with Wang Sheng's 9 words incantation and the 2 8th and 9th degree realm experts, even if they were experts without vision, they wouldn't be much of a threat. However, they were after all still in the core of the Ground of Thousand Despair. The earlier they left, the earlier they would be safe. At this time, the 2 experts with vision problems were really a burden. Even if Wang Sheng frequently gave directions, the 2 of them kept crashing into trees or tripping over the bushes and vines on the ground. It was extremely difficult for them to move forward. Both of you, I'm sorry. Wang Sheng apologized to the 2 experts and stretched out his hands, one on each side, to carry the 2 experts on his shoulders. Wang Sheng used the method of carrying injured people which he had learned from the army on Earth. He carried 2 people at a time, so he could only use his shoulders to press against their stomachs as he walked. To Tang Laowu and the red card assassin, this position was absolutely uncomfortable. But they didn't say anything. Compared to their lives, this little bit of discomfort was nothing. Circulate your energy to resist. There might be some branches or something that might hit your body. Wang Sheng reminded them and didn't care about their feelings as he carried them and ran quickly through the forest. It was until they stepped out of the core of the ground of Thousand Despair and once again felt the thin spiritual energy outside did Wang Sheng put the two of them down. This was the time when they could really relax and rest. Although there was no longer any threat, Wang Sheng still carried the two people with snow blindness along the edge of the ground of Thousand Despair, all the way to the campsite. In order to save some face for the two of them, Wang Sheng took a detour and brought them to the main road of the campsite. In this way, without those obstructing plants, Wang Sheng could totally give them directions and walk all the way back to the campsite. When Wang Sheng and the other two entered the campsite from the entrance, the entire campsite was in an uproar. Everyone wanted to know what happened from the three people's mouths. Unfortunately, Wang Sheng and the others had already discussed it on the way, so they didn't say a word after entering the campsite. All three of them were protected by the experts of the Imperial Treasure House, and the news was immediately sent out. At the request of Wang Sheng, the experts of the Imperial Treasure House would escort the three of them back to Carefree City. In Carefree City, Wang Sheng would once again auction what he saw in the core area. Of course, the Tang family, the Imperial Treasure House, and Carefree City would be free of charge. As for the other families, I'm sorry, although you also contributed and people died, I can't give you the news for free. If you want to know, show your sincerity. Chapter 561. The worry-free city, which had been quiet for a long time, had once again welcomed a wave of stormy waves. Ever since Wang Sheng sent news back a month ago that he wanted to enter the core region to take a look, it had attracted the attention of various parties. The moment the news of Wang Sheng, Fifth Tang, and the Red Card Killer's successful return was sent back to Worry-Free City, the entire Worry-Free City immediately became excited. Knowledge of the core region of Thousand Despair. Moreover, it was obtained from 16 people who went out, and 13 8th and 9th stage realm experts had died. How valuable would that be? The news that was sent back was that only Wang Sheng and an expert from Tang family, as well as a guard arranged by the Imperial Treasury, had returned safely. There was no need to ask, the others had definitely died inside. The various vassal states immediately sent out messenger birds to seek instructions from their respective monarchs on how to handle this matter. After all, each family actually had people who went in, but if it was free of charge to the surviving Tang family and the Imperial Treasury, it would make the other families feel unfair. In the end, before these people could find any unfair excuses, the Worry-Free City's City Lord's residents directly announced that they supported Wang Sheng's decision. The reason was simple. If the various large families' people returned, but Wang Sheng didn't, would the various parties be honest about the situation inside, just because the other families had people who died? This reason was very strong and also very rogue, but it could make the various parties feel at ease. Although the various parties weren't willing to accept it, but if it was really changed to that scenario, they would absolutely not be willing to reveal the inside information to the other families. Moreover, Wang Sheng's side was considered not bad, and he was willing to give them a chance to understand the inside information. Other than that, Wang Sheng had another strong enough reason. Those people weren't hired by Wang Sheng, nor were they hired by Wang Sheng, but they followed Wang Sheng on their own accord. Wang Sheng didn't leave them halfway was already considered righteous. Even in the spirit world, there wasn't such a good thing when they came uninvited and wanted to get the news for free. Tang family, Imperial Treasury, and Worry-Free City firmly supported Wang Sheng's decision. Anyway, their families could get the news for free, so naturally they didn't need to care about other people's lives. To the other families, what was a bit of gold as compared to the Thousand Despair's internal secrets? It was precisely because some of them had sacrificed their lives that Wang Sheng had given them this opportunity. One had to know that only the participating forces could use gold coins to exchange for information. Those who didn't send people in didn't even have the chance. In other words, the trading of information was limited to 15 forces, or rather, 16 forces. The imperial treasury and the worry-free city were considered one family. Wang Sheng, Tang Laowu, and the red card assassin were still on their way, but Carefree City had already begun its preparations. How much would each party have to pay? Where? And so on. On the way back to Worry-Free City, Wang Sheng was no longer on guard. The people of the imperial treasury had walked this road many times, and it was already a smooth road. Tang Laowu and the red card assassin were both well taken care of. Their eyes had been carefully examined by the camp's doctor, but the doctor didn't know what happened. Wang Sheng was more experienced. He just told them not to move around and to rest for a few more days. With enough rest, snow blindness would recover in a few days. The two of them firmly remembered Wang Sheng's instructions. No matter who asked, they didn't say a word. Even if it was their own family members, it was the same. If they didn't speak, there was no possibility of leakage, and this information could be sold at a high price. Anyway, the forces behind them would definitely ask them about the details in detail. It was just a matter of 1 or 2 days earlier or later. It didn't affect the overall situation. On the contrary, if they cooperated with Wang Sheng, they would be able to win Wang Sheng's favor. Others didn't know, but they were very clear that with Wang Sheng around, they could avoid at least 80% of the demonic beast attacks in the core of the Grounds of Thousand Despair. In the core of the Grounds of Thousand Despair, where even a random mouse could injure an 8th-degree realm expert, what kind of concept would it be if 80% of the demonic beast attacks were reduced? If this little bit of incense was used well, the benefits would simply be sky high. And the price was just to cooperate with Wang Sheng and not speak. Those who didn't cooperate would be fools. For the 13 powerhouses, Wang Sheng wasn't biased, giving each of them 2 million gold coins and a set of 6-stage realm cultivation method. All of them were given first. No one had any objections. If this was an auction, it would definitely be sold at a higher price. Later on, it was changed to a unified ticket price, which saved a lot of money for each party. If anyone still felt that it was too expensive, then they would be kicked out directly. Before Wang Sheng arrived at Carefree City, the city lord's butler had no choice but to worry about how to change Wang Sheng's residence. There was no other reason. The gold coins were almost full. The imperial treasury share of the camp, plus this time's share, amounted to more than 20 million gold coins. When piled up, it was enough to fill a few houses. The 2 young maids and the chef were almost out of places to stay. On the way back to Carefree City, Tang Laowu and the red car killer's eyes had almost recovered. Back in the city, the 3 of them were directly brought to the small auction house that Wang Sheng was familiar with. After a short rest, the 3 of them began to face the dozens of people who were already waiting anxiously in the small auction house. 16 forces. Each force was allowed to send 3 people, a total of 48 people. In the auction house, as if facing a formidable enemy, all unrelated people were cleared out and the array was activated. The conversation between Wang Sheng and Tang Laowu could only be heard by the people inside, and not the slightest bit of it would be leaked out. There were at least 200 experts outside the auction house. Not even a fly could fly in. Wang Sheng began to narrate the entire process, starting from the discovery of the first burst of expert's aura. Of course, at that time, Wang Sheng must have been cultivating in the Grounds of Thousand Despair. When he discovered the aura, he immediately rushed to the camp to prepare the supplies and went in to explore. Following that, there was a second burst of expert's aura, and all the experts insisted on following in. Tang Laowu could prove this point. Wang Sheng did not invite them. And not only Tang Laowu, many people in the camp could prove that it was Tang Laowu and the rest who insisted on following in. Moreover, Wang Sheng had been persuading them that the risk was too high, and when they walked out of the camp, he even hinted that they could give up. These were all witnessed by many people and could not be lied. The crowd did not care about this. What they cared about was the situation inside the core of the Grounds of Thousand Despair. Compared to these things that they urgently wanted to know, the sequence of events was simply negligible. Even the deaths of their own disciples could be put aside. However, from the moment Wang Sheng and the rest walked along the periphery of the core area to choose the entry point, the crowd's spirits were raised. These were top-secret experiences exchanged with the lives of their own disciples. They could not easily give up on them. The core area was separated by a line, and the spiritual energy here was twice as dense as the outside. The environment inside was almost the same as the outside, but after 10 miles, it turned into a basin of ice and snow. Imagining this scene, everyone was dumbfounded. Chapter 562. Starting from the first casualty, starting from the first demonic beast they met, basically everyone who was listening started to have questions as they started to ask in detail. Luckily, Wang Sheng wasn't the only one around. Tang Lao Wu and Red Card Assassin were able to replace Wang Sheng to answer some questions in this aspect, so there was no need to doubt the authenticity. The various parties didn't doubt Wang Sheng's words. They only wanted to judge the grade of the demonic beasts they met in the battle process, so as to make sufficient preparations for the next time they entered the core region. Wang Sheng and the others knew each party's intention, so they described it very clearly. Every kind of demonic beast standard was summed up by the three of them before they came to a conclusion. And these conclusions made all parties shocked. Those small demonic beast standards were probably all above 8th-stage realm later stage. When Wang Sheng mentioned that he dug out a boundary stone from the ice and snow over 100 feet below, everyone went into an uproar. Especially when Wang Sheng took out that boundary stone and indicated that he would auction it later on, all parties almost started fighting on the spot. The one with the biggest reaction was naturally the Dai family's representative. This obviously belonged to the Dai family, and on it was clearly engraved with the word Dai. So what right did they have to auction it? Not only were there words on the boundary stone, there was also a small array. According to Tang Lao Wu's explanation, it should be a small array used to mark the boundary. He wasn't familiar with the array from 500 years ago, but if this array fell into the hands of a real array expert, combining with the secret passed down information from various families, they might be able to find out what happened back then and what this boundary stone represented. This small dispute was suppressed by all parties other than the Dai family. Although Worry-Free City Lord didn't show his face directly, but his steward gave the Dai family's representative a stern warning. The boundary stone was Wang Sheng's spoils of war, and if the Dai family wanted it, they could just buy it at the highest price. If they continued to create trouble unreasonably, the Dai family would be chased out of the auction. As compared to the secret behind, a piece of boundary stone was obviously not worth it for the Dai family to give up, but the Dai family's three representatives' gazes towards Wang Sheng were filled with fury and enmity. Towards this, Wang Sheng didn't mind at all. He killed so many people from the Dai clan and gave the boundary steel to the Dai clan. Could it be that he could turn enemies into friends with the Dai clan? Besides the Imperial Treasury and Worry-Free City, which of the forces present at the scene hadn't Wang Sheng killed a few experts? If Wang Sheng were to investigate them one by one, would they still be able to live? The exploration continued until Wang Sheng found the ice slope. What they saw, heard, and felt, the three of them took turns to explain in great detail. All the representatives present were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it at all. How could there be such a terrifying expert? In particular, when Tang Laowu said that the expert might have been bound by the array formation, the scene was filled with voices of how is that possible? Wang Sheng, Tang Laowu, and the Red Card Assassin belonged to three different forces, so it was impossible for them to lie. As for the Tang clan and Worry-Free City, they were pleasantly surprised. They would be able to get more detailed and truthful information from their own people. The following story was more conventional. Tang Laowu shared the discovery of the array formation with everyone. On the way back, they were attacked by various monsters. Dai Laowu led the three experts and forced Wang Sheng's group to stay, but they never returned. Tang Laowu and the Red Card Assassin had problems with their eyesight, and so on. Wang Sheng explained in great detail. How did you know that there was a problem with their eyesight? The representatives of the Shi and Xia family cursed their own children countless times in their hearts. They followed the wrong person at the critical moment and didn't even have the chance to return. However, they caught a small detail in Wang Sheng's description and quickly asked the Shi family's expert. Obviously, you don't have any experience surviving in the ice and snow. Wang Sheng didn't hide his disdain for these natives' lack of outdoor survival experience. However, he didn't intend to tell them the whole truth. Under the influence of the strong cold wind and snow, it's normal for such a situation to occur. You can ask those who have lived in the ice and snow for a long time. Wang Sheng wasn't afraid of them asking. Those who live in the ice and snow would definitely encounter this problem. Without a detailed understanding of the cause of snow blindness, they wouldn't be able to tell them the reason. Then why are you safe and sound? The representative of the Xia family immediately asked. I have a way to prevent it. Wang Sheng replied casually. Without waiting for the representative of the Xia family to say anything, Wang Sheng had already said, if you want to know, you can buy it. His words stopped all doubts. Wang Sheng didn't invite experts from the various sects to enter the core area. Therefore, he didn't have any obligation to tell them how to survive in the ice and snow. Moreover, when they set off, everyone, including Wang Sheng, didn't know that they would enter a world of ice and snow. It was normal for them to be unprepared. Now that things had come to this, Wang Sheng could be considered to have finished explaining the situation inside. He had fulfilled his promise. As for the auction of the boundary steel, Wang Sheng directly handed it over to LV Wen Ho of the Imperial Treasury. He said goodbye to Carefree City Lord and LV Wen Ho, who had been hiding in the VIP room, and left the auction house. The entire auction house was silent. Everyone was digesting what Wang Sheng and the others had said. Tang Laowu and the red card assassin also returned to the Tang family and the city lord. The reason why everyone hadn't left yet was because they were waiting for the auction of the boundary steel. The Dai family was very unhappy, but they could only grit their teeth and wait for the auction. Not only that, they had to pay a large sum of gold coins to buy the boundary steel from Wang Sheng, whom they hated so much. The Dai family was determined to get the boundary steel of the Dai family's ancestors. Unfortunately, the Dai family was clear about this, and the other families were also aware of this. They were absolutely willing to add a little more when the Dai family increased the price, so that Wang Sheng could get more gold coins from the mouth of the Dai family, so that they could build a good relationship with Wang Sheng, especially the Tang family and the Carefree City Lord. The first message that Tang Laowu and the red card assassin gave them was to build a good relationship with Wang Sheng at all costs. The reason was not suitable to be said here, but it was absolutely enough. Tang Laowu was not the only one who found out that Wang Sheng could avoid most of the demon beasts. The red card assassin naturally had his own unique skills to be able to become a red card assassin, and he also found out about this. Just this reason alone was enough to tempt both sides. Moreover, the other families were not fools. As long as they did not cooperate with the Dai family, they were willing to let the Dai family pay a higher price. But to let them build a good relationship with Wang Sheng, it was just a favor with their mouths, and it was not costly, so why not? The starting price is 10,000 gold coins. LV Wen Ho innocently took the boundary steel given to him by Wang Sheng and started the auction. Before he could say the rules of the price increase, someone had already called out, 1 million gold coins. The one who spoke was the Carefree City Lord who had not shown himself. Chapter 563. As soon as he opened his mouth, he raised the price by 100 times. This was obviously not giving him any face. The three people from the Dai clan looked at the private room where the Carefree City Lord was. It was pitch black and they couldn't see his face. However, the three of them were instantly filled with anger. However, that was all. Being angry was one thing. In Carefree City, the three of them didn't dare to do anything to the Carefree City Lord. They couldn't do anything to him. The Dai clan had openly expressed his attitude. They could only watch with anger, but there was nothing they could do. 2 million. The person from the Tang clan didn't want to be outdone. He immediately added another 1 million. 2,100,000. The third person was from the Song clan. However, the Song clan didn't kick them when they were down. They only added a symbolic 100,000. 2,200,000. The moment the Song clan's voice fell, the Chiu clan added another 100,000. This time, the Dai clan finally understood. The Tang clan and the Carefree City, the two clans who had gained the most from this auction, immediately raised the price of Wangsheng by 1 million each. The remaining people must have tacitly raised the price by 100,000. In other words, if the Dai clan wanted the boundary stone that originally belonged to them, they would have to fork out at least 3 million gold coins. 3 million gold coins. This price tag was 50% more expensive than buying the travel details of Wangsheng's group. However, the Dai clan had to pinch their nose and accept it. Otherwise, these families would definitely be more than happy to raise the price so that the Dai clan wouldn't get anything. Although it was humiliating to buy their own boundary stone, it was better than not getting it back, especially since there might be other secret marks on the boundary stone. No one knew what secrets were hidden inside. The Dai clan definitely had to get it even if they didn't want it. Seeing the price tag increase from 100,000 to 3,200,000, the person in charge of the Dai clan increased the price without hesitation. 3,300,000. Deal. The moment LV Wenho heard the price from the Dai clan, he struck the gavel without hesitation. There was no need for the crowd to bid again, nor was there a process of 3 confirmations before the deal was made. It was just a simple and crude deal. Congratulations, Mr. Dai, for buying this boundary stone. The little beauty Ling was by LV Wenho's side. Ling carried the boundary stone and presented it to the person in charge of the Dai clan with a smile. Oof. The head of the Dai clan was filled with rage. He snorted coldly. Even when facing the beautiful Ling, he did not have a good expression on his face. Unsatisfied, Ling had a sharp tongue. Other than being at a disadvantage in front of Wang Sheng and being respectful in front of Marquis LV Wenho, when had she ever suffered from other people's attitude? He retracted his hand and took back the boundary steel that he was about to send out. He turned around and said to LV Wenho, "Young master, there's something wrong with your auction procedure just now. You only dropped the hammer after 3 bids, so it doesn't count and should be auctioned again. Also, I haven't made a bid yet. Young master, have you forgotten?" "That makes sense," LV Wenho said with a smile on the stage. "Bring it back and auction it again." The 3 members of the Dai family watched as Ling took back the boundary stone and placed it back on the auction stage. Sorry. It was my first time hosting an auction, and I forgot the rules. Let's do it again." LV Wenho smiled apologetically at the crowd below. He didn't even look at the ugly expressions of the 3 from the Dai clan. "The starting price is 10,000 gold coins. Please bid 1 million gold coins." Ling who was next to LV Wenho, shouted charmingly, "The Imperial Treasury bids 1 million gold coins. 2 million. A bid was immediately heard from the private room of the Carefree City Lord. 3 million. The Tang family bid with a smile. 1 million. The Song family called out. It was still according to the order of the previous bidding. The number of people bidding remained the same, but because of the addition of the Imperial Treasury, there was an extra 1 million. In the end, it became 2 million gold coins. Everyone looked at the 3 from the Dai family, waiting for the 3 to bid. The 3 of them were full of anger, but they could only watch everything happen. 2 million. Is there anyone else? LV Wenho was like a qualified auctioneer now. He began to shout to set off the atmosphere. He deliberately called out to the Dai family twice. Seeing that the Dai family was silent, LV Wenho called out with a smile. "Is there anyone else?" 2 million going once. Ling When Ling heard the young master's voice, she did not say anything else and called out charmingly again. 2 million. 2 million going once. Is there anyone else? LV Wenho looked at the 3 from the Dai family again, and the ridicule on his face was not concealed. 2 million going twice. Is there anyone else? At this point, LV Wenho's gaze had already turned to the Carefree City Lord's private room. 3 million. The Dai family's leader finally could not help but increase the price. If LV Wenho continued to call out like this, and the carefree city lord increased the price again, it would probably be more than 6 million gold coins. The Dai family was rich, but they could not afford to be tossed around like this. 5. 3 million going once. 5. 3 million going twice. 5. 3 million sold. LV Wen Ho called out 3 times in a row. And finally, the hammer fell. It was still Ling who carried the boundary stone over. This time, the Dai family did not dare to do anything impolite to Ling. One of them even deliberately stood up and received the boundary stone with a smile. As for the cold humph, no matter how unhappy they were, they had to swallow it back into their stomachs. What a joke. Just because the first time Ling was sent over, they didn't give a good expression and gave a cold humph, and the Imperial Treasure House added 2 million gold coins. Who didn't know that Ling was LV Wenho's lifeblood? Daring to give Ling face was equivalent to giving LV Wenho face, so it would be strange if the Imperial Treasure House did not jump out. That Dai family's leader was filled with unhappiness, but he could only wait to receive the warning and pay the gold coins before rushing to some place or someone to express his anger. But he didn't dare to go against Ling. The various families looked at the Dai family's trio as though they were watching a show. Some families like Sher family and Gon family looked as though they were looking at their enemies. If it wasn't for Dai family's Dai Seventh's bewitchment, would their men have lost their minds and left with Dai Seventh? Not to mention that they had offended Wang Sheng for no reason. They even lost their lives. Was it easy for a family to nurture an 8th-stage realm or even 9th-stage realm expert? They were buried just like that? Dai family members were unhappy, but they didn't dare to provoke everyone in the auction house. They could only wait for the carefree city lord's order to open the auction house before they left. The various parties left happily. Tang family directly brought Tang Old Fifth back to their own family's encampment to inquire about the details. Not knowing what agreement LV Wen Ho and carefree city lord had reached, he directly brought Ling back to the city lord's residence, probably to be fortunate enough to listen to the red card killer's detailed explanation. As for the other families, they swiftly rushed back to their own residences, wrote down everything they had seen and heard, and sent it back by messenger bird. While they were busy, they didn't forget to verify if there would be problems while living in the ice and snow. Chapter 564. Verifying this problem was actually the simplest thing to do. It was so simple that he only needed to send someone to the snowy north and ask those who live there all year round. He didn't even need to send an expert. He just needed to send a trustworthy person to ask. The total cost was the travel expenses, and the tips needed to be paid for asking a few more people. Of course, if possible, it was best to get some ways to deal with these troubles from those who live in the ice and snow all year round, so that he could save the trouble of buying prevention methods from Wang Sheng. Although Wang Sheng's method was very effective, it was too expensive. The housekeeper chased after Wang Sheng. After exchanging a few words with Wang Sheng, he took him straight to another big house that Wang Sheng wasn't familiar with. "This is your new residence in the worry-free city," the housekeeper introduced to the confused Wang Sheng. "When did I change my residence?" Wang Sheng didn't understand what was going on at all. Was there anyone who dared to touch his house in the inner city of the worry-free city? Just 3 days before you came back. Wang Sheng's question was inexplicable, but the housekeeper's answer was very strange. Since your small house couldn't hold your gold coins. Wang Sheng understood the reason in an instant. During the time he was not in the worry-free city, the Imperial Treasury and the worry-free city lord didn't hide his earnings and sent them all to his house. Coupled with the earnings this time, tens of millions of gold coins were sent over. Of course, a few small houses couldn't hold them all. This was the second time that Wang Sheng felt the trouble of not having a bank and no banknotes and checks. The first time was in the capital when Qian Shenyuan just opened. Those buyers all had dozens of large carriages carrying gold coins to the door, which was really inconvenient. Just for the safety of these gold coins, the Marquis's mansion had to dig a huge vault in the ruins of the practice room in the center. It was really troublesome to go in and out every day. More than half of the 100 Taoist masters who were trained by the Lao Jun were tied up in this treasury. By the time Wang Sheng left, the treasury was still unfinished. A large number of gold coins were piled up in a room in another courtyard. He had yet to solve the problem of the gold coins in Ho Fu, and now there were so many gold coins piled up in Worry-Free City. Wang Sheng felt a headache coming on. "Brother, what do you think we can buy with so many gold coins?" Wang Sheng asked the butler. "These gold coins can't be eaten or drunk, and they take up space. Why don't you help me spend them?" This is simple. Hearing Wang Sheng's unpretentious words of asking him to help him spend money, the housekeeper smiled like a flower. Pick the best clothing, food, housing, and transportation, all kinds of elixirs and cultivation methods needed for cultivation, chi-gathering formations, and all kinds of rare weapons. Isn't it easy to spend money? From the beginning of the housekeeper's introduction, Wang Sheng knew that he was lacking in this aspect. To be honest, Wang Sheng had only been in this world for a few years. He had no idea how the real nobles lived. To put it bluntly, he was a nouveau riche. He had a pile of gold coins, but he didn't know how to spend them. Not to mention anything else, just based on the food they ate, the truly important figures of those big clans ate different from ordinary people since they were young. They ate carefully selected grains and vegetables that were filled with spirit chi, or demon beast meat of various attributes that were compatible with them. Moreover, the demon beast meat was of similar cultivation level and could fully play the role of nourishment. Wang Sheng had definitely eaten demon beast meat before. There was even a period of time when the demon beast meat he ate was too high grade to be absorbed. He also knew that eating a few caddies of demon beast meat was very beneficial to him. When Wang Sheng first came to Worry-Free City, there were so many people fighting to buy the hind legs of the fanged swine. If even 1 or 2 caddies of demon beast meat had such benefits, one could imagine how good it would be for these people to eat it every day. No matter what their innate conditions were, just in terms of growth, the poor people were pitifully far behind. "Brother, the taste of your cooking is excellent, but it's still far from enough to make up for it." When the housekeeper said this, Wang Sheng could only nod. What else could he say? There were so many things to pay attention to just eating. When cultivating, staying in the chi, gathering formation was naturally richer in spirit chi than in other places. All kinds of medicinal herbs were supplied continuously from small to large. Over the years, it would be strange if the cultivation of the disciples of the aristocratic families who had the resources was low. Even Song Yin had never enjoyed such treatment since she was young. It was probably only after Song Honda returned that Song Yin would have the opportunity to enjoy such treatment. No wonder Song Yan's cultivation increased so quickly. Her wealth was definitely one of the reasons. After listening to the housekeeper's explanation, Wang Sheng combined it with the cultivation elements that he had read in the novels on Earth, and found that it was actually true. Cultivation methods, wealth, and even a cultivation companion were necessary. Didn't Wang Sheng and Song Yin enter the yin and yang coexist realm after having a night together? The housekeeper had been serving the Worry-Free City Lord for a long time, so he definitely did not lack these connections. Since he had money, Wang Sheng naturally could not be like a miser. Naturally, he asked the housekeeper to help so that Wang Sheng could enjoy this kind of comprehensive cultivation assistance. In response, the housekeeper happily agreed. In any case, Wang Sheng did not shy away from giving him a gift, so the housekeeper was happy to help. While Wang Sheng and the housekeeper were happily preparing to spend the money, the Tang family, the Worry-Free City Lord, and LV Wenho were busy listening to Fifth Tang and the Red Card Assassin's explanation. This was a special benefit for these 3 families. Apart from the fact that the 2 of them had more of their own insights than Wang Sheng's, there was one more important point that they did not mention at the auction. That was, following Wang Sheng would allow them to avoid 80% of the terrifying demonic beasts. Being able to avoid 80% of the demonic beast attacks meant that the casualty rate of those following Wang Sheng would be reduced by 80%. In terms of exploring the secrets of the grounds of Thousand Despair, this was practically a heaven-defying skill. Everyone knew that the reason why Wang Sheng was able to enter the outer region of the grounds of Thousand Despair was because of his super-sensitive senses, which allowed him to detect demonic beasts in advance. Who would have thought that his sensitivity would be so useful in the grounds of Thousand Despair's core? No matter what, they had to hold onto such a person tightly in their hands. Even if they could not pull him into their own camp, they had to at least build a good relationship with him. This was so that when they entered the grounds of Thousand Despair one day, they would have fewer casualties among their own disciples. With the housekeeper following him, no one dared to disturb Wang Sheng. But when Wang Sheng had just moved into his new home, and the housekeeper went out to help Wang Sheng spend the money, someone immediately came knocking on his door. This time, it was another familiar face of Wang Sheng, Sister Rosa. Chapter 565. Sister Rosa was originally a disciple of Triumph Palace and was now a citizen of Triumph Nation. She held a position in Carefree City's Hall of Assassins, serving as Wang Sheng's personal attendant. Wang Sheng didn't need to meet Sister Rosa to know the purpose of her visit. This time, the people from Victorious Return Palace weren't able to follow Wang Sheng into the core region of the lands of Thousand Despair. It wasn't because Wang Sheng rejected Victorious Return Palace, but rather because the highest cultivation level of Victorious Return Palace was only at the 7th stage. 7th Realm cultivators obviously didn't have the qualifications to enter, so they couldn't blame Wang Sheng for being biased. They could only blame Triumph Palace's bad luck. If they didn't have the qualifications to enter, it meant that they didn't have the qualifications to participate in the auction and find out what was in the core of the grounds of Thousand Despair. This was the instruction Wang Sheng gave to the core families that entered the grounds of Thousand Despair. Even if their disciples lost their lives, as long as they had the money, they would still be able to find out what was going on. The other powers didn't even have this opportunity. This action could be considered to have appeased the resentment of the various parties. Obviously, those who didn't have the opportunity to find out what was going on inside weren't satisfied. There was nothing they could do about their bad luck, but they definitely wouldn't be willing to let go of such an opportunity. As a matter of fact, before he could even familiarize himself with his new home, Sister Rosa had already come knocking on his door. The news of entering the core of the grounds of Thousand Despair couldn't be hidden. There were so many people in the camp, and almost all of them had sensed the eruption of an expert's aura. Wang Sheng didn't deliberately conceal it. Such a big matter like the departure of the team in broad daylight. How could it be kept a secret? Such a big matter in Carefree City couldn't be hidden either. The Lord of Carefree City had made such a big commotion and had so much money that he even changed his house. How could this be hidden from all parties? Lone Wolf, you usually don't show up, but the moment you do, it's such a big commotion. Sister Rosa and Wang Sheng could be considered acquaintances, so they didn't have to worry too much about speaking. At the same time, it was always Sister Rosa who begged Wang Sheng, so Wang Sheng didn't have to look at Sister Rosa's mood. When Wang Sheng first arrived at the Worry-Free City, he didn't have any cultivation or gold coins. Naturally, he had to depend on others. The current Wang Sheng was no longer the same as before. Naturally, he didn't have to worry so much. However, many people could see that Wang Sheng was a nostalgic person. Sister Rosa wanted to use this to see if there was a chance. It's not like I want to cause a commotion. Wang Sheng followed Sister Rosa's words and continued. There was a huge commotion inside, so I could only go in and take a look. There was nothing I could do. Can you talk about it? Sister Rosa didn't keep them guessing and asked directly. No. Wang Sheng also answered very straightforwardly. Their disciples sacrificed their lives and then took out millions of gold coins and cultivation techniques. It's against the rules for you to ask about it the moment you open your mouth. Victorious Return Palace can also offer gold, double the amount. How about 2 cultivation techniques? Sister Rosa asked in a negotiating tone. Wang Sheng still shook his head. Sister Rosa became anxious. If she couldn't complete this task, she was afraid that the sect would make things difficult for her. She could only plead sincerely and hope that Wang Sheng would relent. It's useless to look for me. Wang Sheng pointed to Sister Rosa. Look for the city lord and discuss it. See if those families can relent. If they don't mind, of course I have no problem. If more than half of them shake their heads, then there's no chance. At the end of the day, it was still a matter of power balance. Sister Rosa also knew this. She just wanted to see if there was an opening from Wang Sheng. Since Wang Sheng said so, she was afraid that those who didn't have a chance could only look for the city lord to discuss it, who told them to not make it in time. Wang Sheng didn't care about this. If it succeeded, he would have another source of income. If not, he didn't seem to lose anything. After sending off the helpless Sister Rosa, Wang Sheng began to familiarize himself with his new home. It wasn't to see how good his new home was, but out of the vigilance of a sniper. He observed the surrounding environment, the various entrances and exits, and the route of retreat. If anything happened, Wang Sheng could calmly make arrangements. After experiencing such a dangerous journey, even someone like Wang Sheng needed to rest for a few days in Carefree City to calm himself down. Striking a balance between work and rest was the right way. Even for a warrior, it was impossible to be tense all the time. There would always be times when he needed to relax. While Wang Sheng was leisurely waiting for his brother to spend the money, the Dai family had sent the boundary stone out of Carefree City at top speed and sent it back to Dai country overnight for a detailed examination. In fact, up until now, all parties had confirmed that there was a super expert in the core of the grounds of Thousand Despair. That expert's cultivation was probably beyond everyone's imagination, and he was bound by a binding array, unable to move or leave. But when he was in a bad mood, the aura that erupted from him was enough to make a 9th-degree realm expert, who was a few hundred feet away, faint. What was the level of the expert, why he was bound, and who was the one who bound him? These were all unknown. What did the Dai family's boundary stone mean? Other than the Dai family's boundary stone, whether the other families had boundary stones was also something everyone wanted to know urgently. But there was one point that everyone couldn't figure out, and that was how did Wang Sheng discover the boundary stone? Wang Sheng didn't care, but Fifth Brother Tang and the Red Card Assassin definitely wouldn't lie, which meant that Wang Sheng had really discovered the boundary stone under the ice layer. One must know that it was over 10 feet deep under the ice and snow. Everyone had seen that boundary stone before, and there wasn't any spiritual energy or array fluctuations on it. So how did Wang Sheng discover it? See it? Impossible. Over 10 feet deep in ice and snow. Even if Wang Sheng had a pair of X-ray vision, he probably wouldn't be able to see through that deep. This Wang Sheng was displaying more and more peculiarities, making one simply unable to see through him. What surprised everyone even more was that the Laojun Temple, a religious group that had always kept a low profile and never showed its presence in the struggle for power, had suddenly announced that Wang Sheng had become their secular elder. This was something that had never happened in the past century. When did Wang Sheng get involved with the Elderly Lord Temple? Not to mention that he was on good terms with the Elderly Lord Temple, Wang Sheng even got involved with the Exquisite Pavilion, which made everyone even more puzzled. How many families wanted to maintain a good relationship with the Exquisite Pavilion, but the Exquisite Pavilion had always been indifferent towards them? But everyone still had to beg the Exquisite Pavilion, hoping to get the Exquisite Pavilion's fine products. But Wang Sheng silently got involved with a bunch of grandmasters from the Exquisite Pavilion. No matter how one listened to it, it seemed like a story. Many people wanted to know the reason behind it, but they couldn't find the way. Coincidentally, just when everyone was puzzled, the two grandmasters from the Exquisite Pavilion actually came to Carefree City and didn't stay for long before they directly found Wang Sheng's house. Chapter 566. When the two grandmasters of the Linglong Pavilion came to visit, Wang Sheng was practicing in his new house. However, if those masters saw his practice method, they would definitely laugh their heads off. The new house was very large, much larger than the original one with 2 entrances. There were more than a dozen rooms, and there was a 2-acre garden in the backyard. The backyard had been renovated by Wang Sheng. There were many horizontal bars, parallel bars, and other exercise equipment. There was a clear running track around it because of Wang Sheng's daily running. It had been almost 20 days since he moved into his new house. The butler moved very fast. He spent tens of millions of gold coins. On the second morning after he moved in, Wang Sheng enjoyed the treatment of those aristocrats that the butler had told him about. The bedroom and the backyard were surrounded by formation stones, which triggered a qi-gathering formation. There were 20% more rooms than outside. The food was much more exquisite. After one bite, the spiritual qi contained in the food was much richer. With the cooking skills of a chef taught by Wang Sheng, the food was even more colorful, fragrant, and nutritious. If he could live like this for a long time, the accumulated advantages would definitely be coveted. Wang Sheng's practice method was not like that of others, who sat or practiced all kinds of movements. Wang Sheng also practiced the movements of sitting, but he only did it once a day at night. In the morning and evening, he practiced Tai Chi, and the rest of the time, he did running, push-ups, and other exercises without equipment, plus the use of parallel bars and other strength equipment. Of course, Wang Sheng did not simply exercise. He referred to the scientific training methods on Earth. He also needed to run at a constant speed, running at different speeds, and sprinting. Push-ups and sit-ups were purely muscle building. Rope skipping, parallel bars, and other kinds of equipment were used to coordinate the muscles of the whole body. He even practiced climbing and descending on a big tree. There were strength exercises, endurance exercises, flexibility exercises, and agility exercises. In short, he did not neglect any aspect. In addition, while doing these exercises, Wang Sheng would not forget the 9 syllables mantra. As long as he had enough spiritual energy, he would practice one syllable at a time until his spiritual energy was depleted and his body was so tired that he did not want to move at all. After that, it was the medicinal bath. Several doctors had specially diagnosed Wang Sheng's constitution. After that, the medicinal herbs were carefully boiled. Every time he took a bath, they would put in a certain amount and soak his whole body. The medicinal power slowly seeped into his body through the open pores, consolidating his corporeity, relieving fatigue, and restoring energy. It was extremely effective. After the medicinal bath, Wang Sheng used the army formula of the Buddhist incantation of 9 secret words, which had recovered a little, to shake his whole body and eliminate the toxic and harmful dregs in the medicinal qi. After that, he slept for 2 hours refreshingly. No matter in terms of spirit, qi, or spirit, he could cultivate to the peak. After 20 consecutive days, Wang Sheng felt that the effects of his cultivation in the carefree city were not any worse than when he cultivated in the 1,000 despair grounds. The only downside was that it was completely made up of gold coins. Just these decorations alone had already earned the butler 10 million gold coins. From Wang Sheng's point of view, the combination of internal and external factors was a very scientific way of cultivation. But obviously, in the eyes of those masters, these scientific exercises in Wang Sheng's mind were simply a reckless waste of God's gifts. In such a good environment, they did not need to cultivate spiritual qi all the time. Instead, they spent it on these unworthy physical exercises. It was simply ridiculous. When the 2 gurus of the Pavilion of Delicacy came to visit, Wang Sheng was in the middle of exercising and sweating all over. Hearing that they were from the Pavilion of Delicacy, he did not avoid them and just went to meet them. One of them was an acquaintance. It was the female guru whose surname was Wang, who had been invited by Mayer to make the protective suit for Wang Sheng. However, compared with Wang Sheng's rudeness, the 2 gurus of the Pavilion of Delicacy were very polite. Wang Sheng's reputation in the Pavilion of Delicacy was no less than that of those great gurus. Not only was he about to enter the great guru realm soon, but he also had a wide range of knowledge and could guide other gurus. The 2 gurus of the Pavilion of Delicacy had long heard of the legend of Wang Sheng, so they did not show any disrespect. To Wang Sheng's surprise, the 2 gurus of the Pavilion of Delicacy had been sent here just to give him one thing. It was a large 2-phase exquisite seal box. Wang Sheng was puzzled. What do they mean by sending him a 2-phase exquisite seal box? He recalled that the order issued by the carefree city governor to the red card assassins was sealed in a 3-phase exquisite seal box. So it was not strange for them to bring a 2-phase exquisite seal box. What they wanted to say or what they wanted to ask were probably in it. The strange thing was that neither Master Wang nor the other Grandmaster had a key in their hands. They only gave Wang Sheng a box, but there was no key. As for the reason, the two gurus did not say. They only said that it was the pavilion master's idea. Wang Sheng suddenly understood. Song Yin had been away for such a long time, so she must have spread the news that Wang Sheng had seen the Shi family's map through some channel. The Pavilion of Delicacy was not sure whether Wang Sheng could really open the exquisite seal box, so they sent this box to Wang Sheng for verification. As for the two gurus, one was a guru who sewed clothes, and the other was a guru who made some exquisite items. They frankly said that they came to Carefree City to get in touch with Wang Sheng, so that they could find an opportunity to break through to the great guru realm. Wang Sheng, of course, welcomed them. He was more than happy to have the two gurus make the things he needed. In the past, he did not have the means to do so. Now he had money, status, and ideas. He wanted to make a batch of special tools that were suitable for him. He needed them in the forest, and he needed them even more in the world of ice and snow. Without saying anything, Wang Sheng first arranged for the two gurus to stay in the small courtyard where he could not put the gold coins, and then began to ask the two gurus to start working. Ice and snow protective clothing, anti-skid boots, sleds, skis, and so on, suitable for the world of ice and snow, were made first. If gold coins and materials were needed, he could use them. As soon as the two gurus were settled, the Tang family's thank you gift came to his door. This was to thank Wang Sheng for carrying Tang Laowu and the red card assassin out. It included some nourishing elixirs, a skill that could make one's body warm up in the world of ice and snow, and the most straightforward one, 500,000 gold coins. Although the Lord of Carefree City did not say anything, the red card assassin had come in person and left a message for Wang Sheng, saying that he could hire him for free once in the future if there was a need. He had saved Wang Sheng in the core of the land of Thousand Despair, but that was a business hired by the Imperial Treasury. Since Wang Sheng had saved his life, it was a favor that he had to repay. When it finally quieted down, another uninvited guest came to the door. This time, it was still an acquaintance, but Wang Sheng still did not know her name, nor did he know her origin. But she took the initiative to come to the door and let Wang Sheng deal with her. The person who came to the door was the long-legged, beautiful assassin, Aki, who had assassinated Wang Sheng 3 times before. Chapter 567. An assassin who had once killed Wang Sheng had come knocking on his door. Wang Sheng believed that this female assassin would definitely not dare to make a move in the inner city of the worry-free city, not to mention the fact that his current residence was only a step away from the city lord manor. If she dared to make a move in such a central area, she would be challenging the entire worry-free city. Once she made a move, the female assassin and the organization behind her would face the wrath of the entire Carefree City. It would not be an exaggeration to say that they would be completely wiped out. Upon seeing Wang Sheng in the living room, the female assassin knelt down in front of Wang Sheng without a word. She lowered her head and did not say a word, expressing her willingness to accept any punishment. "What's your name?" Wang Sheng only needed to see this action to know what was going on. The female assassin must be a descendant of a large family. Due to some unknown reason, she had previously assassinated Wang Sheng. Now, she needed Wang Sheng's cooperation and goodwill. Thus, she was presented to him as a gift. Aki, the long-legged assassin, lowered her head and replied coldly. The coldness seemed to come from her bones, like a block of ice that separated everything else. "Get up, sit properly." Wang Sheng came from Earth and did not like it when a woman knelt in front of him. Perhaps there were people who liked this, but it was definitely not Wang Sheng. Aki did not say a word. She followed Wang Sheng's instructions and sat on the guest seat. Her face was still expressionless. "Don't speak, let me guess." Wang Sheng was not angry. He even asked the little maid to bring him a cup of tea. Aki seemed to have something to say, but Wang Sheng stopped her in time. "Your men should have been killed by me before I killed Dai Si. Thus, you're definitely not a member of the Dai family. The Dai family is not arrogant and despotic. There is no need to hide. You're also not a member of the Song family. If you wanted to kill me in the Song family's territory, there was no need to hide. The Tang family's way of doing things is different from yours. The Chiu family is stronger than you. In that situation, they wouldn't have endured in the Song family's territory. The Feng family does things by the book. To put it bluntly, they are a little old-fashioned, but they won't try to provoke misunderstandings between the two parties like you do. The Gan family is quite arrogant. I've interacted with their people before, and they aren't like you. They are more patient and ruthless than you. If they fail, they will commit suicide. In that case, only the Shi family and the Xia family are left. The Shi clan's disciples are a little useless. They aren't as difficult to deal with as you. Xia family. You're a member of the Xia family, aren't you? Or are they from those secluded sects? Long-legged Aki listened to Wang Sheng's analysis. At first, she didn't think much of it, but as Wang Sheng eliminated them one by one, she gradually became surprised. When there were only two options left, no matter how unconvinced Aki was, she couldn't help but give Wang Sheng a thumbs up. He had mentioned almost all the possibilities. I'm a member of the Xia family. Since Wang Sheng had already analyzed it to this point, there was no point for Aki to hide it anymore. Anyway, she came over to appease Wang Sheng's displeasure and pull her family closer to Wang Sheng, not to hide it. Please forgive me if I've offended you in the past. I'm at your disposal. It could be seen that even though Aki was forced to apologize to Wang Sheng by her family, she wasn't very convinced. Even though she had already knelt down, she was still stubborn. You don't seem to be convinced? Wang Sheng could naturally tell that he didn't have a good impression of Aki. Back then, he had only said that he liked her long legs. Now, the Xia family must have misunderstood something and sent Aki over to rope him in. But looking at Aki, did it look like she was trying to rope him in? Aki didn't answer, but her unconvinced expression was written all over her face. There was no need for her to answer. Let's be the judge, Wang Sheng said to Aki. As he spoke, he naturally glanced at her long legs. To be honest, Aki's legs were really attractive. Even though she was only wearing a tight-fitting dress, the outline of her legs was still eye-catching. I don't think I offended you in the past, did I? Wang Sheng continued to ask. If you were after the bounty, your previous pursuit could be forgiven. But when you arrived at Carefree City, everyone had already withdrawn the bounty. Don't you think it's a bit too much? You killed two of my companions. Aki finally said the reason. If I didn't want to die, tell me, what should I have done so that you wouldn't hold a grudge against me? Wang Sheng hated these people's reasoning the most. Why can you chase after me, but I can't kill your people? Aki couldn't answer. She knew very well that Wang Sheng had killed Big Ear and Big Bear because he had no other choice. If it was her, she would have killed them too. But as a member of the team, she couldn't tolerate Wang Sheng being able to live freely after killing her teammates. Reasoning was reasoning, but it was a different matter when it was applied to oneself. Seeing this, Wang Sheng couldn't help but feel angry. He mocked. Is it only when I take my own head that you and the Xia family will be satisfied? At the mention of the Xia family, Aki suddenly remembered that she was here to beg for Wang Sheng's forgiveness, not to provoke him again. Thinking of this, Aki suddenly became depressed. She no longer had the pride and determination from before. She lowered her head and said to Wang Sheng in a low voice, I'm sorry. What happened after that? Why didn't you chase after me? It wasn't that easy to appease Wang Sheng with a simple apology. However, since Aki had delivered herself to him, Wang Sheng didn't mind asking more questions. Our rule is that if you don't kill the target 3 times in a row, you can't attack again. Aki lowered her head and replied in a low voice. Wang Sheng suddenly understood. This rule was really strange. Perhaps the original intention was to protect the assassins. If they couldn't kill the target 3 times in a row, they definitely wouldn't be a match for the assassins. However, this time, perhaps it was to protect Wang Sheng. At least based on Wang Sheng's cultivation, he shouldn't be a match for Aki. You can leave. Wang Sheng knew the reason and also knew the family behind Aki. There was no point in keeping Aki here. There was a 2-phase exquisite seal box at home waiting for Wang Sheng to open. Wang Sheng didn't want to keep a female assassin who obviously hadn't completely let go of the past. Aki stood up. Her mind was filled with confusion. Other than killing people, she didn't seem to be that good at other things. Seeing that Wang Sheng had already asked her to leave, and thinking about the dead big-eared bear and her two companions, Aki really wanted to kill Wang Sheng right here and now. Unfortunately, she couldn't. Thinking about the instructions given to her by the family elders before she came, Aki gritted her teeth and began to undo her clothes in front of Wang Sheng. Chapter 568. The long-legged beauty's action stunned Wang Sheng. He had already asked her to leave, but Aki stood up and unbuttoned her clothes. What was this? A honey trap? If this was a honey trap from the Xia family, Wang Sheng would definitely drag the person in charge of the Xia family over and spit on his face. Whose honey trap didn't involve sending a well-groomed, well-washed, fragrant, and obedient beauty over. Even Song Yin had prepared a beautiful room in the land of Thousand Despair to show her most beautiful side to Wang Sheng. What was the Xia family trying to do? What was the meaning of letting a female assassin who had just come out of the forest, covered in sweat, and wearing a combat uniform, take off her clothes in their living room? Aki didn't stop moving. Her face was full of determination, as if she was a brave soldier who was going to die for a just cause. She quickly unbuttoned her clothes and took off her top, revealing underwear made of the same material. Thanks to Wang Sheng, protective clothing had become the standard for soldiers. Protective clothing on the outside, underwear on the inside, and thick-soled military boots on the feet. The underwear also had a formation that could adjust the temperature and ventilation when activated, making it very comfortable for the wearer. Now that Aki had taken off her top, she continued to take off her pants. Wang Sheng was rooted to the spot. He stared blankly at a heaven-defying pair of long legs, which were revealed from the tight protective suit. His eyes were glued to those long legs, unable to shift his gaze away. It had to be said that Aki's figure was very good. Other than the fact that her breasts weren't as big as Mayer's, the rest of her body was as long as it should be, short as it should be, big as it should be, and small as it should be. What stood out the most was her pair of long legs. At this moment, she had even taken off her pants and boots, revealing her feet. Her toes didn't deform due to wearing high heels all year round. She was simply beautiful and eye-catching. Although Aki's face and hands were covered with the mud from her training in the forest, her body was very clean. Her delicate body, which was only wearing underwear, looked so alluring. Seeing Wang Sheng staring at her body and her legs, Aki felt a burst of anger in her heart. If it wasn't for the king's orders, how could he have used such a shameless method to tempt his enemy? Perhaps it was because Wang Sheng's gaze was too hot that she felt a wave of embarrassment wash over her. However, standing in the living room, she had nowhere to hide. All she could do was nervously clamp her legs together and cover her breasts with her arms. She looked at Wang Sheng coldly and snorted. Wang Sheng finally looked up at Aki's face. To be honest, Wang Sheng had seen Aki's clean face in the past. She was very beautiful. She was different from Mayer and Song Yin. She had a different kind of liveliness, which Wang Sheng didn't dislike. The problem was, even if Aki stood in front of him half-naked, Wang Sheng didn't have the slightest desire. Looking at beautiful legs was instinctive, but Wang Sheng also knew that if he accepted this pair of beautiful legs, he might be killed one day if he let his guard down. Wang Sheng didn't reject beautiful women, otherwise he wouldn't have kept the two servant girls that Bao Qing Yutang had given him. But those two servant girls only served Wang Sheng's daily needs, and Wang Sheng had never touched them. Keeping them was only to make his life more comfortable, and he didn't have to worry about housework. But now that Aki had come knocking on his door, Wang Sheng didn't dare to be tempted at all, and he didn't dare to keep her. Wang Sheng understood Aki's current thoughts. She must have accepted the family's mission in exchange for Wang Sheng's forgiveness, which was why she had come knocking on his door. However, it was obvious that the person in charge of the Xia family hadn't expected Aki's character. She would never lower her head and admit defeat, but for the sake of the mission, she had no choice but to remove her clothes in order to complete the mission given to her by the king. After carefully admiring Aki's beautiful body, to the point where Aki felt a little unnatural, and even her skin began to break out in goosebumps caused by her nervousness. Wang Sheng finally shook his head and said, "Put it on. You're not cut out for this." That one sentence caused Aki, who had already decided to give up everything, to collapse in an instant. She hugged her chest and squatted down, pulling her clothes to cover her exposed skin with extreme shame and indignation. The decision that she had just made through gritted teeth crumbled in an instant. At the end of the day, she was still a young lady with an extremely strong sense of pride. At the same time, she was also a young lady who was proud of being an assassin. "There's no need for you to do this." Wang Sheng smiled at Aki, who was nervously putting on her clothes but was afraid of being seen by him. He said, "I've killed at least 3 of your men, and you've also tried to assassinate me 3 times. As long as you tell me a secret that I don't know, we'll call it even. How about that?" "Are you serious?" Aki, who was quickly putting on her clothes, suddenly stopped. She looked at Wang Sheng in disbelief. Of course, with Wang Sheng's current status, he wouldn't be calculative with a lowly assassin. If he wanted to be calculative, he would be calculative with the king. Aki was clearly not of that level. After muttering to herself for a while, Aki quickly put on her clothes. After she was done, she looked at Wang Sheng with a blushing face. No one knew what she was thinking about. After a while, she said, "I've discovered something these few years. I'm listening." Wang Sheng gestured for Aki to continue. "Ever since you entered the Thousand Despair Grounds, it seems that everyone's cultivation speed has increased." Aki hesitated for a while and finally opened her mouth to say what she had discovered. In the past, if one wanted to cultivate from the 3rd stage realm to the 5th or 6th stage realm, it would be impossible without 10 years of hard work. But these few years, there are many people who have broken through at lightning speed. Wang Sheng's face revealed an obvious expression of interest. That year, among the experts who chased him into the Thousand Despair Grounds, it was already very impressive for a 5th stage realm expert to appear. But these few years, there was an endless stream of 6th and 7th stage realm experts. Even 8th and 9th stage realm experts didn't seem to be rare. Could it be that Aki had really broken through at lightning speed? It seems that it's much easier to obtain high-grade original spirits. Aki continued to talk about her discovery. Especially in the Thousand Despair Grounds, the cultivation speed is much faster than the outside world. In just a few short years, there are definitely quite a number of people who have rushed from the 4th or 5th stage realm to the 7th or 8th stage realm. It seemed that this discovery was really interesting. Wang Sheng remembered that those people from the Song family had stayed in the Thousand Despair Ground for more than 10 years before they came out. That was how they managed to nurture so many experts. But if Aki's discovery wasn't wrong, it should be after Wang Sheng entered the Thousand Despair Grounds that those people's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. In other words, it was highly possible that it was Wang Sheng who had brought about these changes. "All right, we're even." Wang Sheng pondered over Aki's discovery. After a long time, he gave Aki a reply that made her completely relaxed. Following that, Aki recalled her earlier actions and was so embarrassed that she couldn't raise her head. She bade farewell to Wang Sheng and fled out of Wang Sheng's house. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.